Forget whatever you've seen in the movies. They don't turn to bats. Crosses don't work. Garlic. You want to try garlic? You could stand there with garlic around your neck, and one of these buggers will bend you fucking over and take a walk up your Strada Chocolata while he's sucking the blood out of your neck, all right? And they don't sleep in coffins lined in taffeta. You want to kill one, you drive a wooden stake right into his fucking heart. Podcast turns him into crispy critters.
It had to be that.
It had to, but also, God, it's so hard to do a James Woods impression. I gave up one word in.
You could live.
I'd kill for a good word.
Or be undead for 600 years. But I would say you truly haven't lived until you've heard James Woods say Strada Chocolata.
Strada Chocolata. I had to cut a couple lines out from the beginning of that monologue.
For the best.
Yes. This character, Jack Crow, does not like homosexuals, and he lets it be known all the time. In fact, he almost seems to find them to be more demonic than vampires.
You could say that it's one of his two personality traits.
Well, I mean,
wears leather and hates gay people.
Yeah.
He's afraid. You know, he deals with vampires more, probably.
Terrified.
He sort of knows what he's dealing with.
Right.
I was thinking, though, because initially in my notes, I wrote down gay panic ? At the first line, and then immediately had to scratch out the question mark. But it then veers so far beyond.
And then scratch out panic for fear.
But it goes so far beyond gay panic, where it's just outright homophobia.
I was going to say,
it's like vampire hunters.
It doesn't feel like he's panicking. It's like, no, I very confidently know I don't like these people. I don't respect the way they choose to live their lives and who they love.
He's most upset because Vlad the Impaler, whatever the fucking vampire's name is, Jan Valak.
Not Vlad the Impaler.
Whatever.
This is embarrassing. Get out of here.
Like vaguely resembles a gay stereotype. Like that's really, I think,
horrible.
What keeps him up at night.
The most triggering thing. Look, he reminds him of his two least favorite things in the world: the creatures that killed his mother, and some guys he had to walk past on a street outside a bar one time, and he never got over it.
Yeah, which, you know, when James Woods found out that he was in this movie 5 years later, he was completely unconcerned about it. He was like, yeah, no, I was just being my true self.
Yeah. James Woods.
Yeah.
Cool guy that we're going to talk about on this podcast.
I think this is only the second time we've gone into the woods on this podcast.
What are the other?
Hercules. Which is
also,
easier to talk
also
around.
A good performance, though.
Great performance. I mean, David, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you have said that he's unfortunately one of your favorite actors.
I've always
on mic before.
I have always. I'm trying to remember when he
regrettably.
Yes,
he is one of your favorite.
When I feel like when was it that he became? Was it Trump or was it like a little before Trump when he kind of was like became just sort of publicly evil?
Yeah, well,
I feel like before then it was sort of like James Woods. That guy's kind of an asshole, but like
I remember seeing White House Down.
Sure.
And
which is sort of like his last major movie.
And also feeling like, oh, I haven't seen him on screen in like 4 or 5 years. And at that point, it was kind of funny that he was cast in that way because you're like, you already know that James Woods is this weird, angry, reactionary guy. I think it all got heightened even more past that point. The Trump shit got worse. I think Twitter is really what.
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean,
some of these guys just should never have gotten Twitter again.
He never should have gotten
He was
Twitter.
the only person whose true, inner cynicism came out thanks to the help of social media. I have a theory that it was after the Virgin Suicides, in which he plays the most mild-mannered,
incredible,
still oppressive
an incredible
person, but that he put. I mean, I don't think that the dad in that character is necessarily a great man or a great father, but he did put like whatever last embers of decency he had into that movie for safekeeping.
It's like the glow drains from his body and goes into that film.
And then that was it, yeah.
Yeah.
When was he in that movie Pretty Persuasion? Doesn't he play a total jerk in that one?
this is my question. He's like a creep, right? Isn't he like a fucking adult who sleeps with Evan Rachel Wood? Right.
Yes.
David, can you... I should clarify. I got 2 Davids this episode. I'm getting ahead of myself. Mr. Sims, would you mind, as I introduce the podcast, pulling up what James Woods does in between Virgin Suicides and White House Down?
I have it for you here.
Okay. Because this is a podcast called Blank Check with Griffin and David. I'm Griffin.
I'm David.
Which one?
Sims.
I'm Griffin Newman. And it's a podcast about filmographies, directors who have massive success early on in their careers and are given a series of blank checks, make whatever crazy passion projects they want. Sometimes those checks clear. Sometimes they bounce. Baby, man, does this director we're talking about really illustrate that concept?
He's like a basketball.
Yeah.
Just going up and down.
Right.
Like his
Sure.
favorite sport.
And these last 5 movies are very much like, we should let him make it. That guy made some great movies, right?
Bounce,
Right.
bounce,
It's just multiple
bounce.
bounces, but
Yeah.
they're like, but he's John Carpenter.
I mean, this movie made its budget back domestically, so I guess.
By a hair.
But and then I'm like, this feels like the kind of movie probably did okay on the old VHS market, right?
There are 2 direct-to-video sequels.
Hey, Los Muertos.
Los Muertos.
Gotta watch out for them.
Los Muertos.
I remember Los Muertos being one of those like always there at the video store.
The
I do not
Jarhead
remember.
2 of its day.
Vampires: The Turning is the other one. I do not know that one.
It's weird. There's this, and then there's Wes Craven Presents Dracula 2000, both of which I feel like were mocked when they came out,
right,
and had
which also
successful
Dracula
direct-to-video
2000
sequels.
fully came out in like 1998, right?
Yes,
like that's
I
what
think
was
so.
so odd. About
Blues Brothers 2000 also comes out in 1998.
People were just jumping the gun. They were so hyped for 2000
You know who the star of Vampires 2 is, right?
of Los Muertos.
Is I think Los Muertos is 3. Am I wrong about
You
this?
are wrong. But Los Muertos is 2.
And it stars
John Bon Jovi. I
Jonathan
did know
Bon
that.
Jovi.
I did know
is
that.
the star.
He's
Stake
the
through the
vampire
heart.
hunter.
He's the vampire
And it's too
hunter.
late.
Yeah.
Yes, I did know that. Natasha
Hey,
Gregson
hey.
Wagner's in it.
Hey, 10 comedy points. That was really
Full
good.
10?
It almost got lost. It almost fell between the cracks. I wasn't going to let that
Apparently,
happen. Flipping you a
Diego
10.
Luna is in it.
He is.
Oh, Cassian
He is.
Andor himself.
Right.
And then in Vampires: The Turning,
Okay.
we've got Colin Egglesfield. I don't know who that is.
You know who Colin
that's-
Egglesfield is.
No, I don't.
Sure you do. We
Yes.
all know
He
who
was in
Colin
Something
Egglesfield is.
Borrowed.
Thank you.
He was in Something Borrowed.
He was supposed to be a guy.
He's in Must Love Dogs.
But you must.
You must.
You must. I guess I also get the fucking. I guess the From Dusk Till Dawn direct-to-video sequels were a real like.
this
industry
movie
in
is
and of
also like a
themselves.
kind of a From Dusk Till Dawn
Yes.
like ripoff. Not
Yes.
but like it's at least like that movie did okay, so I'll greenlight your sort of vampire western that's
It's
super violent, right?
Weird. It's weird, especially because Dusk Till Dawn's whole legacy was that like no one knew this was a vampire movie. What a surprise!
Which is, I mean, it is
One of my
the
favorite
greatest
genres of
experiences
movies.
I
So
ever
cool.
had is seeing
And
that movie.
truly one of the great genres of movies
From-
is the we are not going to tell you what this really is
Yes,
until the
for
end
like
of the second act.
45 minutes, right? From Dusk Till Dawn had 2 sequels and then a TV series,
Right.
right? So it's really had a long tail.
yeah.
I feel like no one's really doing that these days. I mean, it's sort of incompatible with the.
It really
the
has
complete-
good subtitles too. Texas Blood Money and The Hangman's Daughter.
Right, and I think that one's a
Oh.
prequel. One
Yes,
of them's
one
like
of them's a
actually
prequel.
it was.
That would be even better though if
Yeah.
that was just the subtitle of one.
Is
film.
there not?
it's called
Texas Blood Money and,
And
the
The
Hangman's
Hangman's
Daughter?
Daughter.
That's
That
like
would
a
be
Bob
good.
Yeah.
Dylan song.
and The Crimes of Grindelwald.
Is there not still the DTV market with
We've
the
talked
sequels?
about this.
no,
Yeah,
no,
we
18
have.
Jarheads.
I don't care about the DTV movies as much as I do about the movies that present as one thing and then become another.
Oh,
Oh,
and
sure,
I
sure,
think
sure.
that in our like super transparent online culture, it's hard to get away with that.
There's only one guy who does it, baby.
Who dat?
M. Night.
Oh,
He'll do it. He'll do it. Not always,
Not
but
always,
he'll do it.
but he is capable of doing it.
I mean,
suppose.
yeah.
I mean,
like
Split
nothing-
is that as a twist ending, and I would argue Unbreakable in terms of how it was marketed was that, where it's not until an hour in where you go like, this is a fucking superhero movie. Now everyone knows, oh, that's
I
a
think
superhero
the closest analog that we have on even a semi-regular basis these days are the A24 horror movies that they sort of deliberately mismarket.
But that's the thing. That's the difference. Is I don't think that's those filmmakers
Right, they're
trying to
fooling
trick the
you.
audience. That's
Right.
A24 being like, we can dupe fucking
I mean,
a million
Parasite has the hinge point moment where the movie totally changes.
Yes,
But I
right.
don't know if it like completely. It's not like a From Dusk Till Dawn where like
people.
the genre totally changes.
Right. The genre
Right.
tonal thing, I think, is a big.
But I mean, Parasite definitely does have that moment,
Absolutely.
which is so right where you're like, okay,
I
like,
would have
what
loved
is
to have
this
seen
is turning into something
Lamb
different.
not even knowing, that it was supposed to be a horror film.
Yeah.
I mean that is a movie that really does beyond the marketing sort of take its time to play its cards. But while you're on the computer, you should go. I think this could be a Patreon goal for you guys.
Mm.
You should go onto James Wood's Twitter feed, and you
No.
should.
Has
if
he been
you,
banned?
no, he is back, and he is constantly tweeting about 3 things.
Poker.
One, of course, is animals, which he loves.
Oh,
2 is the
enough.
American flag, which he cries over. There's a tweet from
Should
September
relax.
11th of this year where he sees an American flag on a crane, and he
rich?
goes, "Sorry, my eyes are getting dusty."
Yeah.
And 3, of course, is poker. But now
Mm.
you can and should stake him at the World Series of
No,
Poker.
I'm not going to stake him, but
I
will-
like.
Wait a second. You don't want to make threats against that guy.
Oh, right.
You might want to put
Yeah.
that out.
Great.
He
Yeah.
is very
Actually,
bleep it. Bleep
Hold
it.
on, we
bleep
gotta
it.
bleep that.
Bleep
Yeah,
it. Don't
yeah.
cut out.
Yes.
Bleep it. So there's the implication that I have said something, but no one knows the specifics of
Yeah.
it. We should say famously, James Woods. Someone tweeted at him with like 10 followers and said, like, you washed up cokehead, and he sued them saying, I've never used coke in my life. And then in the years that the lawsuit was dragging out for defamation,
the guy died.
And
can look it
Woods
up.
has refused to drop the case and has demanded settlement payout from the family.
One of the many fun entries in the legal issues section of his Wikipedia page, which is
dense.
longer than you would want it to be for yourself.
Which
I
is
think.
dense. Look,
But here's the thing I want to say about James Woods' poker career, moving off of the other stuff, the flag and the Twitter.
Uh-huh.
He's on
Why
a
would
great
you?
episode of, was it called Celebrity Poker Showdown?
Yes.
The one that Dave Foley
Yes.
hosted.
Which was my favorite show.
one of the greatest
Yeah.
television shows in
Dinner
the
for
history
five,
of the
but
film medium.
with
Yes.
cards.
Was so good. And my roommate Phil and I used to watch it in
It
college
was incredible.
religiously.
Yeah.
And
Delighted.
he is a very committed poker player, and he's on one of the earlier episodes with 4 other people who are celebrities who clearly know the rules of poker,
Sure.
but are not
Right.
particularly involved poker players. And he's sort of like, yeah, I mean, it's for charity. Y'all do it, And then like one hand in, he like busts out, or like very early, and he's like, nothing that they were doing was logical. All of the bets they made no sense. When I would see their cards, I'd be like, wait, why did you do it? Because they're all just like, yeah, sure. I
don't
got
know.
some red ones.
Right.
I'll bet 100.
Right.
And Woods is like, okay, well, clearly you have this. Like, I know how poker works, and like he just was complete. It's a very funny episode. He's not amused.
I know how I could beat James Woods in poker. Wear sunglasses with American flags on the lenses.
He can't see the cards.
Yeah. What do I have?
Look, anyway, as Griffin, you were reading me for filth, but I've said it on this podcast. I have always been a huge James Woods fan as an actor when I was younger. I'm not a huge James Woods fan as a human being. Seems
No, but your thing you've
like a
always
flawed
said, and
dude.
I think we all have these people for us, right? Where you're like, I hate the fact that I find him so compelling on screen. I wish
absolutely.
I did not find him so compelling on screen.
For me,
There are people where
Saddam
you're-
Hussein.
Look, he's
I
good
feel
on screen.
like-
He's amazing in Hot Shots Part 2.
The first time I probably was aware of James Woods is probably his Simpsons appearance,
Mm.
which is so funny to
Yeah.
this day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's so
movie.
he's
It's
so funny.
Yeah,
He's so
it's-
game on. He's done multiple
I think he used to
episodes
be
of
a
The
more
Simpsons.
game person.
He's done
in
like
general.
15 episodes of The Family Guy.
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well.
Seems
I think he
completely
used to
humorless in real life.
I know.
I think he's had some whatever. He's
He was
changed.
funny. Yeah.
But if you want,
Hercules was my first exposure. That was
that's probably right
Right.
for me too. If you want me to now run down his sort of early aughts,
Sure, I'd like
right?
to just quickly say this is a miniseries on the films of John Carpenter. It's called Day Podcast, and our guest today is a second David, hence me demanding your last name. Returning to the show from Indiewire, our good friend David Ehrlich.
Hello,
He's
hello.
here.
I'm here. I'm in the tomb.
You're in the
Yes,
tomb.
welcome to the tomb.
You know,
Wait, we're calling Ben's apartment the Tomb
It's a working title.
because of the mummy.
yeah, well,
Has there been a mummy you haven't been able
Do
to
you
like get
listen
rid
to
of
your
or something?
podcast, Sims? This is I was walking
I'm
over here.
really behind on my podcast
Yeah.
as I am on most.
We
podcasts.
used to, David and I
I used to
both.
keep up with it.
We used to
yeah.
be like DeMarco. Every night you close down DeFara's pizza shop. You need to try a slice to make sure the product's still good.
exactly.
And I
glass
think
of
in the
wine.
last 2 years, both of us have been like, I never want to hear my voice ever
A
again.
little bit of that. A little bit of that. Give me about
Recording the
6
show in
months.
real time gives me anxiety.
Give me about 6 months. I will listen to an episode from about 6 months ago and often be like, oh, okay, sure.
Sure.
But I need a little more distance now
Yeah.
than I did before.
Yeah.
I've never listened to any podcast.
Fighting
Any
in the
episode of
War
every
Room,
podcast
Great
that I've ever
podcast
been
that you're on that I always plug for you because you always forget to plug.
The sound of my voice.
Fighting in the War
makes
Room.
me nauseated, and I know I'm not alone in that. But I will say that this is one of the least tomb-like places I've ever
It's a
been.
that's
lovely
the thing.
place.
That's the
A
thing.
lovely home. There's a
It's lovely.
mahogany glass case
Sure
about 10
is.
feet
It's
tall.
a curio cabinet. I mean, it's
and
a
it's full
place
of
for
curios.
just
and
curio.
like
It's not
lovely
even stuff you
antique
use.
plates.
It is easily the least tomb-like place we have ever recorded the podcast.
That is true. And
we've
we've recorded-
in some real fucking tombs.
God, remember when Audio Boom moved us to that Studio B or whatever
Oh.
it was?
Yeah, that was a
and
real
we like
piece of shit.
short-circuited. We were like, bury this episode, delete it. It's unlistenable.
That's the swing shift.
You
right,
guys
we
did
listened.
that
We're like,
one
good
special
episode. We were
episode.
focused.
Totally fine.
Tight.
Recorded that
on
one
subject.
episode from the basement from Prince of Darkness.
We did.
Yeah.
We did do that. I mean, there's
In
the
the vial.
Wonder Woman episode that we just recorded in my kitchen because the scheduling was so insane and we sound like we're in a submarine.
Yes.
Yeah, we do.
Right.
Anyway,
3 episodes where I lost my own audio and sounded like I was in a submarine.
that's true. That's true.
But this
Good
is a
times.
miniseries called In the Mount Pods of in
Called a
the Mount
podcast.
Pods of Madcast, right?
Like,
Is that right?
I wish. You know what's the thing I've really enjoyed recently? Anytime there's any mainstream thing with a horribly sweaty title, people now just tag me and go, "Did you write this?" So like all the fucking Huluween and Peacocktober.
I mean, Peacocktober. That's
It's great.
just
That's a
plus
fucking
branding.
slam dunk.
Absolutely.
But the what is it? A Time in a Needle Stack. What the fuck is that movie called?
Needle in a Time Stack.
Right.
You were close.
Everyone's crediting me with coming up with that title.
You?
Yeah, they're like, that sounds like some sweaty griff shit.
That's true.
Podscape
It's
from Newcast.
truly sweaty.
Be tough to find.
Needle in a Time Stack, baby.
Well, anyway, welcome to the tomb.
Oh, thanks. Pleasure to be here.
James Woods is, I believe, top billed in the Virgin Suicides. Yes,
I believe so.
which is amazing. Which is really in a career that in my opinion, is storied with many incredible performances.
Mhm.
One of his best.
Sure.
Yeah.
A performance that profoundly moves me. He was also in True Crime that year, The
Okay.
General's Daughter, and Any Given Sunday, and Play It to the Bone. It's one of those things
That's
where
a
like
huge year.
he would just take those supporting roles.
Yeah,
Like
right.
he was a fairly, like he seemed to accept like I'm not an A-list star anymore. Like fairly
Yeah.
early.
Wait, fuck. Now there's some other movie we've covered him on that I'm forgetting where you're surprised that he's like 7th build and he's just like in it and he's not the focus and he's not the and. I'll figure out what it is. Keep
Yeah,
going.
But there, I don't want to
I'll
give him
go
too
back.
much credit. but-
Contact.
Oh,
Thank you.
Contact,
yeah.
which
Oh,
he's great in.
But that's one where you're like, he's not uncredited
Yeah, where
cameo.
you're like, I guess he's sort of the villain, but really this is just like the 8th lead.
Right,
Like, yeah.
right.
I would venture a guess to say that Contact and John Carpenter's Vampires are the roles that are probably closest to who James Woods is
Yeah.
in real life.
And White House Down.
And
White House Down. Wow, White House Down.
That's
is
why I'm placing that as a
contemporary
final
James
pillar.
Woods. But,
That's the point
But
of no
I
return.
don't want to give him too much credit, but there is a vague sense when you read off the titles that he was in towards the late 90s, the string of high-profile movies, that some part of him recognized that he was in the death throes of an era where a James Woods could get regular work.
It was going to be
like
hard for
that.
him to escape the 90s. I mean, that 99 burst is him going like, I got to get while the getting's good. I don't
Well-
know if I'm going to cross over.
So in 2001,
Into the
he's in
next again.
5 movies again.
Okay.
After taking a break in 2000. I guess he was enjoying the millennium.
a one-year
The millennium,
breather.
Yeah. Recess, School's Out. Apparently, he's a voice in that.
He's the villain. He's actually
He
really.
plays fourth period.
Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. Apparently,
10
he's a
copy
voice
points.
in that.
Sure
I
is.
believe he's the villain in that as well.
Quite possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, Hollywood.
Wait, was Ben Affleck the hero in that, or did the guy
No,
just look
Alec
like
Baldwin
Ben Affleck?
looks like Ben Affleck.
Right, it's
Yes.
uncanny. Yeah.
He's in Scary Movie 2. I remember that being a one scene performance,
But,
funny,
famously,
Exorcist parody.
Famously, that was
Famously.
supposed to be Marlon Brando. They
Right.
announced that they were paying him like $7 million for the one scene. Marlon Brando
Huge
showed up on
waste of
set. It was an absurd salary. Maybe I'm overselling a little bit, but it was like millions of dollars for one scene. It was such a big announcement of like, why is he doing fucking Scary Movie 2? He showed up on set with the oxygen tank, and they were like, Marlon, you can't do this.
Right.
So James Woods was the sub-in for Brando,
Well, I remember
who
him
then
being
is
funny.
dead by the time the movie comes out. I
He
think.
died right around there.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. He's also in Riding in Cars with Boys. Is that sort of a Virgin Suicide?
He's the dad. I think he's
the dad.
John Normal
Something that his character in Vampires would almost never do.
That's true. Well, he rides in cars with Priest
With
Boy.
men.
Right.
With men, yes. He's in something called Race to Space.
That sounds like an IMAX documentary or something like that.
No, it's like there's like a monkey in a spacesuit on the cover.
Okay.
And then 2002, John Q and Stuart Little too. He's the voice of a falcon.
I remember that. He's the villain in that. John Q, I believe he plays the surgeon who they're trying to
Sure.
get to perform the surgery.
Sure, that's one of the few Denzels I've never seen.
But that's another one where he plays sort of like a kind, good. Yeah, I don't know.
You ain't seen John Q.
In 2003, he's in North Fork, directed by the then celebrated indie Polish brothers, and now kind of like MAGA Red Pill.
He's
Polish
directing the
brothers.
Gina Carano, Ben Shapiro movie.
Right. He's in something called This Girl's Life, 2005, Pretty Persuasion, and Be Cool.
Okay, so Pretty Persuasion's him leaning full into Creep.
And
and
Be
then-
Cool is coasting off 90s vibes as a
What
sequel
is
to
it
Get
And
Shorty.
then
Be
like
Cool,
after
yeah.
now we're getting into like movies I've never heard of. Something called Endgame with Cuba Gooding Jr.
Uh huh.
and Angie Harmon, and looks like bunch of people with guns outside the Capitol building.
Are these
but,
like Avi Lerner and tax shelter movies?
Yeah, exactly. He was a voice in Surf's Up.
Okay, probably
he's in the Straw Dogs remake.
Oh, yes.
But apparently in a small role.
Yeah.
And then it's like White House Down. He's in Jobs.
We're like jumping ahead. I mean, there's
no,
a gap
I'm not
there.
jumping ahead.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm jumping ahead in years. I know I'm not skipping over credits, but like White House Down, he hadn't been on screen.
But you're forgetting one thing.
What am I forgetting?
Shark on CBS's Shark. He was the shark.
I'm the shark.
A show that I, as a James Woods fan, when it debuted, I was like, I'm all in on this show. And then I think like 2 episodes in, I was like, this is a bad procedural, but I can't let it go.
Am I misremembering that Spike Lee directed the pilot for Shark?
You are not misremembering that. You are remembering correctly. Wow. He directed the pilot for Shark. That's kind of Spike Lee's doldrum period.
It's post Inside Man, where he's like, I had a hit and no one will hire me.
Exactly. Where I think he was like, why am I not getting major? So he makes a couple pilots. He does. He does stuff.
He's talked about how flummoxed he was, where he was like, that was my biggest hit movie. I like delivered it under budget, on time. It fucking worked, and I couldn't get the sequel made. And no one would hire me to make another big movie.
Well, he did the Shark pilot.
I wonder how mad James Woods was that he couldn't play the Barry Pepper role in 25th Hour, which feels like a real James Woods type.
Well, he's too old for that.
No, but if that movie had been made,
it's Barry Pepper. He's playing an asshole. He talks about how big his dick is the whole time.
He's supposed to be like a contemporary.
No, but what I'm saying is how angry he was that that project didn't exist when he was 30.
He would have been good.
Would have been great.
And you know who else is good? Barry Pepper. I hope he's not. He's not canceled, right?
No, I think
we
Barry
like
Pepper,
right?
Barry Pepper just seems suspect after Battlefield Earth and just the general vibe of Barry Pepper.
But we shouldn't slander him. I don't know.
I think Barry Pepper, upstanding citizen. I think
come on the show, Barry Pepper.
Much like Forrest Whitaker took Battlefield for the pay. Was not
and the love He's in Crawl.
He's great in Crawl.
Love that movie.
I am always happy when he pops up in something. It does not happen very often.
Little Pepper on the Dish is always.
Apparently, he met Creech. He's in Monster Trucks.
Oh boy.
Rob Lowe's in that.
Everyone's in that.
Everyone's in that.
Condoleezza Rice is in
it. Cast everyone
with Barry Pepper and everyone.
Okay, so I do. I mean, obviously, I was introduced to James Woods through The Simpsons and Hercules, but I
need a minute to get over Creech. I'm sorry. I just need like a quick Creech break.
Did either of you ever meet Creech?
No, I did. I went at 10 a.m. on a Saturday morning for the press screening.
I stayed as far away from.
I wore
Creech
a tuxedo.
You guys have both seen the photos of what Creech originally looked like. Right?
Yes, I know. I'm aware of the saga.
Just one of the all-time great stories, if I can recount this very quickly, was they make this fucking movie in which a monster lives in a truck and a kid bonds with his monster truck, and they screen the finished movie, and kids like run out of the theater screaming. It's like bloody murder.
Because of Creech.
Right. And Paramount was like, we have to
fix this
frame
now.
by frame.
Right.
And you can see if you Google original Creech design, they put that in the fucking movie and screened it for 5-year-olds. It's incredible.
But
it looks like In the Mouth of Madness shit. It looks like The Wall of Monsters. Yeah.
I love him in Videodrome, Once Upon a Time in America. A lot of those 80s movies.
He played a Jew.
In Once Upon a Time in America, yes.
I mean, because there was just a time where Hollywood was hog wild in so many different respects in terms of casting.
Well, he also played Rudy Giuliani.
Yes.
I mean,
does he strike you as Rudy Giuliani?
Yes, he does.
No, he doesn't.
In his soul, he also played.
Maybe in his soul.
I don't want to tell too.
He also is Haldeman in Nixon, which he is fantastic.
He played a man who I grew up with.
H.R. Haldeman.
H.R. Haldeman. No, he played. When I was growing up,
I was going to make that same fucking joke.
When I was growing up, my best friend was Dick Fold's son. Dick Fold was the CEO.
Yeah, I got to double back to this as well. The man's name is Dick Fold?
This guy's Dick Fold?
Dick Fold, F-U-L-D. He was the CEO of Lehman Brothers.
Okay.
And James. And
he plays him in Too Big to Fail. He's really good in that.
He plays him in Too Big to Fail. It was very strange.
He did a lot of TV. I guess I'm forgetting that he really became kind of an HBO
right, that was the
guy.
thing. I think it was surprising to see him in White House Down just because you're like, he's in a fucking movie.
I used to go when I was like 6 years old and I was having sleepovers at their house. I had no idea who he was or what he did. And I would knock on his door at 6 a.m. or at 6 in the morning. No, whatever. 6 hours after I went to sleep at some time in the night.
Sure.
When I decided that I was homesick and wanted to go see my parents.
Poor guy.
It was like 2 a.m.
He's
and I
like-
would say hello, not knowing that he was the CEO of Lehman Brothers.
And he would drive you home and he'd
And
be
I would
like,
say-
David, everything's going fine, but it's a delicate balance. If one fucking Jenga piece gets removed,
Yeah.
oh boy, you
I
don't
would
want
quiz
to
him
know.
about
And
the
you're like,
mortgage
huh?
rates
And
and
he's
whatnot.
like, don't worry about it.
Don't
Don't
worry
worry
about
about it.
Forget
It's like
everything
3
you
in the
heard.
morning. He just got a phone call from Tokyo and he's like, oh God.
But as someone myself who grew up to be kind of introverted, it's just so funny to me to picture my 6-year-old self knocking on the door of the CEO of Lehman Brothers, be like, drive me home at 3 a.m.
I just can't
And he would
believe
do it.
with a name like Dick Fold, he wasn't a performer in puppetry of the penis. It's just like such.
I don't know what he did in his
Layup.
off time, but
Well, yeah.
Anyway.
Dick Fold. Well, he sure folded it. James Woods is the star of John Carpenter's Vampires.
The movie we're talking about today. David,
What's up, Greg?
I'm sorry to out you like this.
Okay, go ahead.
I've heard a really nasty rumor about you recently circulating.
What's that?
I have heard that you think there is such a thing as too much comfort.
You've been hearing those tales told out of school. I think
Yes.
that there's a limit on comfort. There's a hard
You're wrong.
cap. I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
There is no such thing as
You're
too
wrong.
much comfort.
It's absolutely false. And Brooklyn's biggest sale of the year is coming this weekend, which means serious savings on essentials for creating your own dream space, which, by the way, has no cap in terms of comfort.
Yeah, and you can't put a price on it.
You can't.
But a sale, that doesn't hurt.
It helps.
It helps. That's true. It actually helps. Look, we love our friends at Brooklyn, and
They're our best friends.
they've got a whole site full of super soft, seriously cozy essentials. It's all going on sale.
I mean, down to loungewear, which I think I talked about this in a previous episode, but I went to a Brooklinen sample sale, a physical sale. They
Was
had
it
in
at
New
one of
York.
their stores, or was it like
It was like a pop-up.
at a department store or something? That's interesting. Was it good?
It was like some vacated space. It was a pop-up. It was good. I got towels and a bath
they got
mat.
good towels. They got
Right.
good-
I had never
yeah.
gotten their towels before, which are wonderful. So I got a bunch of towels and I got this hoodie, and the hoodie is like my favorite item now. It's all good. It just makes it's good.
The great Brooklyn hoodies, and you can get bundles, right? Save
Yes.
more when you stock up on essentials for your space. If you want to get gifting,
And it's easy if you're someone like me who gets confused by betting. You're just like, get the bundle. That's everything.
absolutely, it makes sense that you are confused by betting. It's not
Uh-huh.
the most surprising thing I ever heard. Look, but you can get gifting. Maybe get some candles. You can get a gift card. The holiday season is here. And the lineup keeps getting better. 5-star sheets, cozy must-haves, dreamy decor. They've got some newly launched slippers. Intriguing. I might have to get those.
Yeah, I think you have to.
I'm going to actually Google Brooklyn and slippers right now. I'm amazed they have not bombarded me with emails about this. Look, don't miss out. Brooklyn Inn's biggest sale of the year starts this weekend. And if you're listening after the sale, you can still save by visiting brooklinen.com and using promo code blank check for $20 off with a minimum purchase of $100. That's BROOKLINEN.com. Promo code blank check.
I mean, that sounds like a win-win.
Yeah, these slippers look good. Good patterns. They're cheap.
You're going to start wearing these slippers.
That's fun.
Now, Ben,
Yeah.
I know you've been doing a lot of extracurricular work throughout this miniseries. You've
Yeah.
been reading your big Carpenter tome,
Yeah.
but I don't know if you read the dossiers when JJ, our researcher, sends them to us. Did you see anywhere what the title of the book this movie is based on is?
No.
Well, so I'm going to tell you the title and you're going to go like, huh?
Yep.
The title is Vampires. Oh,
Okay. Well, that's the name of the
whatever.
movie.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
Name
not
of
called
the
John
movie.
Carpenter's Vampires
But
because it
wait,
was a book.
there's a spelling difference
Oh.
here.
Go letter by letter, David.
VAMPIR.
Okay, that's normal. Yeah. Yeah.
R
Yeah. Yeah.
E. Let me take a Sipping my drink.
Oh, okay.
So far, so good.
far, so good. Yeah.
Dollar sign?
Yes. Yes.
What?
The book is called Vampires with a $sign.
Fuck, that's good.
I think one of my favorite fucking books bits on this show.
Yeah.
I of all the guesses I had as to where that was going, that was not one of them.
I think the idea in the book is that it stresses that they are kind of a for-profit organization
Right,
a
it's
little
a
bit
business.
more. Right. Whereas
Right.
this is kind of just like they work for the church.
Right.
That one's more like they're a for-profit organization, and if you follow the money, it goes to the church,
But-
like
Sure.
all the way up.
I want to point something out about the title of this movie because I was doing some of my own research, which is something that people do these days.
You got to do your own research.
And I'd always assumed that it was simply called John Carpenter's Vampires because of a long-standing
Well,
construction
he's
with
always
John Carpenter
Carpenter's
movies.
blah.
But
right.
in reality, it turns out that there was just a surplus of vampire-related movies around the mid to late 90s. And so all of the filmmakers had to put their own spin on it. That's
Like
why
what?
you had Woody Allen's Vampires. You had Merchant Ivory's Vampires. You famously had Ho Xiao Shen's Vampires.
There is Polanski's Vampires. Right?
Well, I mean,
That's
to my
actual-
point, that was earlier, but yes.
Sure.
And so it was really more just
It's
to
vampire killers.
specify the
Fearless
the
vampire
fearless
killer.
vampire kills, right? To specify it from
Yes.
the other wave of vampire movies. People were kind of edging on his territory, but I'm glad they did.
John Carpenter's Vampires. No $sign. Just
No
this.
$sign.
I was hoping it was going to be a Z.
That would be fun. Vampires. But no, it's a novel by, let me get his name, John Stakely. Oh, watch out. Who wrote two novels. One is called Armor
Mm.
and is kind of like a space thing where guys fight aliens.
Yeah.
And one is called Vampires. Ching.
Yeah.
And that's what he did. He wrote those two books. And John Carpenter made a movie of one of them.
Yeah,
And it's
this
called
book is
Vampires.
published-
Came out in 1998. It's about vampires.
Right. This book is published. The studios go, that sounds like a movie. They option it. It's a bunch of people like Peter Jackson and Raimi considered doing it. All the obvious people you'd imagine were offered this or considered doing it. And then it lands with Russell Mulcahy of, Highlander fame and Dolph Lundgren, which sounds like a very different movie.
Yeah, probably would have worked.
Right.
A bit of trash.
Carpenter is super bummed out. It sounds like in a certain way he is more despondent than he's ever been in his career at this point, because I think
Escape from LA had just bombed.
that should have been some sort of homecoming moment for him,
Sure.
a vindication of like full circle. The movies that weren't appreciated at the time have now been canonized. I can
But-
come back and make a sequel people want to see.
NBA 2K had not yet come out, and so he had not fully
Correct.
invested himself in staying home.
Correct.
Right. He didn't know what to do with himself at home.
I mean,
was,
because Nintendo 64 is 97.
96,
97. It's a fair
Yeah.
point. I mean,
So it's like right around the
happening.
time that Escape from LA is coming out. He's like, I could stay at home.
He's like, I could play a lot of Banjo Kazooie. I mean,
gonna make the sequel.
it's a good one, isn't
Fucking
it?
specific.
Fucking Banjo Kazooie is so funny.
It's just
When's
fun to
it
say.
not funny?
What
It's
about
fine.
Conker's Bad Fur Day? No?
Well,
You think you'd be into
that one's
right?
a late N64 game. That's
We're a
weird
little
one.
like Banjo Kazooie. I could fit in a little backpack.
I'm Banjo, you're Kazooie.
Yeah.
Yes, pretty much.
I'm just some twerp and bird, and you're like a bear is like, just let me fucking
Kazooie's cooler.
do my thing.
Well, Banjo's all right though. He's all
Banjo's a
right.
good
He's got a
guy.
banjo
Banjo's a
or a
good-
guitar or something. He's always taken out. Anyway, Nick and JJ broke this down in the research. I liked this, where they're like, the quotes you get from him in this era are either the kind of grizzled vet who's like, fuck it, this industry's chewed me up and spat me out so many times, and like, or the kind of like, look, I had not a penny to my name. I'm a country boy. I got to make movies. This
Right.
kind of like,
I don't got any complaints. I'm John Carpenter. It's a
Right.
nice lot in life.
I'm trying to find some good ones.
One day, the IFC Center is going to make T-shirts that have my name on them.
I mean, this
Cool.
is pretty good. I turned 50 in January. I know this is a cliche and people don't understand this. When you're an older man, adrenaline and coffee don't do it anymore. That's what young kids get. That's what young kids get by on or drugs. Okay, John. You can't do it over and over again. A director has no lifestyle. Your personal life suffers terribly. The stress is terrible on you. So he's basically kind of like, look,
Out.
I quit because fuck this, you
Right.
know? And like me, he might feel differently if Escape from LA had made $200 million. Maybe
Sure.
he wouldn't be so embittered.
But it sounds like more than ever, this was a point where he's like, I might be done directing. I find no joy in this anymore.
He definitely is no longer like, I got to make another one if one does badly.
Absolutely.
Right.
And
yeah.
and after being a movie a year guy, the gaps are getting longer. I mean, this one's only 2 years, but like he's comfortable not making a fucking movie, it seems like, increasingly. And then he gets sent the script and he's like, well, this is a Western. Like, that was the one thing they could do to fucking lure him back at this moment, in theory, is...
Yes.
I wonder if there are any quotes that they sourced for you about him having a similar feeling to the James Woods thing that we were talking about earlier, of just recognizing that his particular skill set was going to be out of vogue soon.
The horizons aren't limitless for me anymore, but I've had a hell of a good life. It's a lot of that stuff.
No, but there were, I mean,
it's like, yes,
you can
but he's
scan for
also
these.
like, but I'm John Carpenter.
But JJ did pull up a whole bunch of quotes from him where he was ragging on how post-Scream, everything had become postmodern, winky, tongue-in-cheek.
I'll bring this up. So this is the thing.
I play it straight.
This movie is 1998. Also in 1998, we have the film Halloween H2O, which some people get mad at me for calling it Halloween H2O. And they're like, no, it's not. It's Halloween water. H20. But it's not. It was marketed as 2O, which is why everyone made fun of it.
You have to remember that, like,
H2O.
We lived through this fucking trailer where they announced it like that. They said it out loud. It was called Halloween
it
H2O.
Is 20 years later. I mean, that is, of course, why the letter the number 2 and 0 are
That's
next
the
to each
joke,
other.
and it's funny, and we give him comedy points for it.
So he was offered that movie, perhaps unsurprisingly.
But he was like very anti the whole Williamson sensibility.
Right.
And it feels like he wasn't alone as far as like men of a certain generation thinking about movies. I was just watching on my way over here the Siskel and Ebert review, and one of the things Siskel fucking loves.
Siskel loves it and says James Woods should win Best Actor.
Right. And I think he went on and did that. But the thing that he cites as his favorite thing about it is that there are no teenagers in it.
Yes.
That's a big sticking point. And Ebert, who didn't like it, is like, but I like that there were no teenagers in it. He calls them teenyboppers.
Those darn teenyboppers always wearing their dealy boppers.
Makes my skin crawl. But I mean, this was a real change of pace from the Screams and the I Know What You Did
But like
Last
at
Summer.
this point, like Wes Craven's on top of the fucking world, right? He's like reestablished himself as the biggest name in horror, and he like has launched a new franchise.
Sure.
And he's now gonna get to make his
violin movie, yes.
Right, his like fucking Miramax Oscar bait film and not be pigeonholed into the genre anymore, and also get to make his sequels and whatever. But to some degree, you wonder if Carpenter's looking at him like askance, going like, yeah, but you sold all of us out. Like now none of us can make the earnest thing anymore because you had to have the fucking last say.
No, but I think Wes Craven was always kind of annoyed by Freddy. Like, he makes this incredible
The other
movie.
difference between Craven and Carpenter is Craven very openly was like, I was never a guy who liked horror. It was my way in, and then I sort of ran it as a business.
And it was cheap to make, and it was how you got in theaters. And like, he was like, the Freddy movie, his Freddy movie is so good, and it's not that related to the rest of Freddy.
You're saying New Nightmare?
No, not even talking, Nightmare on Elm Street. It's a wonderful movie, but I'm saying like where they take Freddy from there, there's only a little bit of that in his movie.
Yes.
And I think he doesn't particularly like the sequels. He thinks they're goofy, even though they're super fun and Freddy's in them and he's badass.
Fucking dream warriors.
And then he comes back with New Nightmare, which is a movie that has like 2 kills in it total. And has lots of scenes of Wes Craven as himself being like, Freddy came to me in a dream,
and much like
a
Scream is him like deconstructing the thing that he did.
Right. But with Scream, Kevin Williamson is like, but the movie should be like really fun and like, on rails.
What if it also works?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What if it also works? I
really love, to be clear, I love New Nightmare. It's just a very strange swerve.
It does not function properly as a genre movie. It's not scary. I think that was
that scary.
That was the Scream thing of
weird. Right. Scream is super scary. I mean,
what if
the
it
thing
works
with
as a horror movie? Yeah.
And I bet you feel that, like that new have you seen the new trailer for the new Scream? Like,
I haven't. I Ride or Die for Hayden Panettiere's haircut in Scream 4.
She is in Scream 4.
After that, I closed the book of Scream.
Well, it's got this. It's clearly trying to do the Drew Barrymore sequence from Scream.
Yeah.
But now there's like an app that locks the doors or whatever. It's trying to update it. And you're watching it and you're just like, oh, right. Like Wes Craven killed it so hard in the first 10 minutes of Scream.
Right.
Which is so scary and so clever.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, why make more Screams?
Someone ran up to me at like the
there.
8th grade dance that fall that Scream came out, wearing the Scream mask, like a friend of mine. Like sprinted up to me in a crowded room. And I remember that feeling of like mortal terror. Like I had never felt
Scream mask really freaked.
Scream has to be the last time that like a horror icon was actually scary in that kind of way. You know, where like the mere
Sure.
presence, the iconography of like a certain point, scary movie comes along and becomes silly.
No, but the Scream mask. Well, what do you think?
It was
Ben?
genuinely scary
Scream
for a
mask
couple of years.
sort of seems like Ben's energy.
Yeah. I think I had the mask.
Yeah,
I think I went.
I'm not
yeah.
surprised.
I think
Yeah.
you ran up to me in my 8th grade dance.
That
and
might have
I
been
Yeah,
shat on the
probably.
floor.
I'll just say I always still think about the joke "liver alone" from the movie. See, it's such a throwaway
Yeah, I
line.
remember
None
that.
of you
I didn't
guys
remember
remember
that.
it. He's joking about a murder that just taken place. What's the Lillard?
Matthew
Yeah.
It's his
Lillard.
character, and he's like making basically like a bad cheeky joke. He's like
Okay.
liver alone, like
do
joking that
vaguely
her
remember
liver
this.
was
Sure.
removed
Yeah.
from her body. Anyway, love the movie.
You have big Matthew Lillard
I was
energy.
yeah.
Yes.
Like
and of
similar
course,
to
Marie
James-
yesterday said you are
Yeah.
Shaggy.
True,
if
yeah,
we
true,
are the
true.
Scooby-Doo gang.
Like in the same way that James Woods is mad he couldn't be Barry Pepper in 25th Hour, I think Matthew Lillard is kind of mad that he aged out of playing Hosley in the Ben Hosley biopic.
That's true.
That's
That's
tough.
true.
Landry Jones came and shanked him.
I know.
But he could play like old Ben.
Yeah.
In like a
Yeah.
sort of
Old-
Logan
old man
style.
Hosley.
Oh, in the Western that they make
Yeah.
about Ben's life.
Here's Kevin Williamson
Uh-huh.
on Carpenter declining the Halloween H2O job.
Yeah.
He wasn't interested at all. It's silly. He's a wonderful director. John was on some vampire movie, Rude. And he said, you know what? I'm not interested in doing the same movie again. And it's funny because that quote reads to me like Williamson is like, can you believe this guy? And it's sort
Yeah.
of like, I could believe that.
Yeah,
guy.
also,
why does he want to do that?
He just fucking made the Slink Plissken movie that people had demanded he make for
True.
15 years
Right.
and then no one liked it. So he's like, why would I fucking go back to the well on any of this shit?
And then
His thing also, we should also mention the other part of it is that his deal on Halloween was so shitty and he never made as much money on Halloween
he
as
had a
other
lot
people.
of resentment.
Where I feel like I've at other times read quotes from him when they were trying to lure him back. I think even maybe for Resurrection as well,
Mhm.
his attitude was always like, I will do it if you give me like the reparations pay.
And they were always like,
If-
what? No.
Right.
we'll
My
just pay you
salary has to be making up for the fact that I didn't have profit participation. Right.
God, I would love to see him direct Resurrection with everything else in the script, Buster Rhymes, like everything else has to be the same. Only John Carr, and to see like how much of an improvement would occur.
Yeah.
Here's Carpenter's quote, the one you were sort of
Yeah.
referencing. And it's in every movie now. And the horror movie has it now with Scream. It's a postmodern style where the filmmaker is acknowledging to you you're watching a horror movie and things are borrowed from everywhere and you refer to things and wink at the audience. It's playing to the perceived cynicism in the audience out there today. It's in action movies. It's in everything. And this movie, Vampires, has none of that.
None of that. None of that. I mean, there are like 4 quotes like the one you just read that JJ was able to pull up. And he links that like, that's why I took the screenplay. I opened it up. I went, oh, it's a Western. It's guys hunting vampires. They're adults. It's just that. It's just that. There's no fucking bigger twist on it.
And whose name does he bring up when he reads this script? Howard Hawks. It's like he just always is like, it's like a Hawks movie. And I'm like, yes, John.
Right.
Sure.
But this
he
time,
always is
he
like, it's
finally
like a
sort of
Hawks.
gets to be in the West and it's gunslingers. Like this is like closer to being a Western than, dare I say it, in terms of patina than anything he's made before, where he can say like Assault on Precinct 13 is a Western, but it has the trappings of a modern crime movie.
I'm just thinking, like, if you dug up Howard Hawks and showed him this movie, do you think you'd be like, my legacy is
Finally.
alive and well?
Yeah.
What I always intended.
I wasn't with you till Mark Boone Jr. was split from crotch to shoulder. And then I was like,
We'll
see
get there.
where you're pulling from.
That is incredible.
I mean,
gag.
that is the shot that
It's the thing I remembered most
Yes,
from seeing this
I-
movie.
Look, if we were doing this episode over Zoom, all 4 of us would have come on with that as our virtual background.
my body would be positioned in
In
the
the split.
crevice
In the
between
split.
his
We'd all be
body.
in the middle of the V.
You know, and it's funny because that's a trick that's been played in many a horror film, right?
Yeah.
These sort of like the slice,
Yeah.
and then someone goes like, and you're like, what is going to happen?
Sure.
Chopped in half,
Right.
cubed,
Right.
much like in the film Cube,
Yes.
right? You know, head lopped off, and like, but the specificness and the nastiness, the way it kind of like topples.
I would say it
know.
owes a lot to samurai cinema,
Sure.
which is like really a whole genre built around that moment of
David Sims is miming, being attacked by a
I would
samurai.
also argue cartoons.
Sure.
Because, you know,
Sure.
when you get clobbered in the head with a mallet and then your teeth kind of crack apart and fall out into dust.
Right, like piano keys,
Yeah.
or you have the bump in your head that grows 6 inches past your skull,
Love that.
or you fucking
Love
become
that.
an accordion.
But that shot was, if we can go into like when I first encountered this movie.
Yeah, because this was
Um,
you called dibs on this.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know.
Quickly.
Listen, I know where I am in the food chain. I knew that Mantzoukas and Shear were coming in for whatever they were doing.
Sure
and-
were.
They were going to get a Kurt.
Yeah, and I'm not going to throw out for The Thing, which is one of my 20 favorite movies
But
ever
even
made.
if it was a
but-
strategic pick, it's not like
This
we
is-
said
yeah.
we have 3 movies left. You very quickly
Sure.
were like,
You gave
could
me
I
a
do
short
vampires?
list.
Right.
And
I mean,
Vampires
this was
on
the
it.
first John Carpenter movie I had ever seen. I did not know who John Carpenter was. I was, I must have been on cable TV right when it premiered on cable TV. There used to be a channel called Stars 2, which formed about 40% of my personality.
Wait, are
when I
you
was
telling
growing
me
up.
this movie played in rotation on
I
deep
know. It's
cable in the
hard to
early
believe.
2000s?
It's not even then. We're talking like late 90s. It went straight to Stars 2, which was a channel that would only play the same 4 movies on an endless repeat for a week. It's why I saw Magnolia 10 times a week for a couple years
Sure.
and was no worse the wear for that, and would occasionally watch Vampires a lot. And this movie has everything that a 13-year-old boy could possibly want to see in the movie.
Yeah.
John Boone, what's it, Mark Boone Jr., a lot of arcane talk about the Catholic Church.
Mhm.
And James Wood saying chocolate,
Briefly
Strada
glimpsed
Chocolata, whatever.
Yeah, some mild
But
nudity.
yes, it also
Yeah.
has
Right.
some mild nudity and a lot
Yeah.
of gore in the first 15 minutes. And I
But,
just
I mean,
remember watching it on repeat. But
mild nudity and a lot of gore. It is
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
more gory than it is
Sure.
trashy. Like From Dusk Till Dawn,
Yes.
probably a little more equal. Well, there's a lot of gore in From Dusk
And
Till
you're
Dawn.
really in it. You're close
In
up
it?
to it. Like the gore, the violence.
Yeah, baby.
Like they're like, you're fucking right there. Like at one point when he's stabbing someone
I mean,
and it's just like, it's so close. Like, I don't know. It's so disturbing.
It's also, I mean,
Fuck.
I just, as bookends, right? Ghosts of Mars, we will talk about next week, was supposed to be Escape 3, right? That was the
Escape
script.
from Mars or whatever. Right.
Right. And then Escape from LA is notorious for having like some of the most poorly aged CGI of the era. And Ghosts of Mars obviously has a lot of CGI. This feels like his last proper rubber movie, like visceral, just sort of like red corn syrup and rubber.
Yes.
And we are
which is
constantly
great.
running up against this fucking thing where you read the reviews from the movies at the time and they're like, we get it, Carpenter. You can put some rubber on screen, but where's the story? And he was always sort of pushing off, like, I'm not a rubber director. Like there was such a fucking, like, I don't know. They always use that term, you know?
Mm.
I
I mean, it's the way that we talk about CGI now. I mean,
Correct.
listening to that Siskel and Ebert thing, the way they're talking about teenagers in that movie
Right.
is the way that, we might talk today about, not being a superhero movie.
The
when you're
rubber
gonna say
director
something.
thing of just like, oh, it's just all these gags, just all these gross gags. And then you watch this movie, and I think I like this movie less than the rest of the group. But undeniably, David stabbing you with a stake, I'm turning into flames.
David is shooting you repeatedly in the face as you're pulled out of a building
He's
on a
yelling
wedge.
Strada Chocolata.
I am not.
but there's something kind of sentimental about this movie, and you're like, this is like the end of the rubber era. And man, does he go out in like a blaze of glory, and he really just knows how to shoot this stuff better than almost anyone.
That's the thing. It's so classily made.
He hires the right people, they
considering-
design it well, but it's also like you just watch all these gags in all of his movies, and you're like, he lights it better than anyone else. He knows where to put the camera. He knows how long to hold the shot and when to cut, where you just don't get that thing where you're like, oh, the shot looks good until this moment that we get with most movies of this era.
Absolutely.
I've never been a big John Carpenter guy. Like, The Thing is one of the greatest movies ever made, and so many of his other movies I appreciate, but don't really do it for me. My thing is that his biggest contribution to culture beyond The Thing is Metal Gear Solid, and for all of the seeds that he planted for that. And I hope there are long sidebars in the Escape from LA episode about Psycho Mantis and all that fun stuff, because in Solid Snake,
I'll
'cause-
bring up Psycho
yeah, just
Mantis.
add it in post. But he is one of the most unpretentious of American filmmakers who has
Yes.
ever been.
Yes. That's a good way of putting it.
And it's kind of, I think,
And he's proud of it. He'll wear
I think
that
the
as a
number one
badge.
thing
Right.
that has made him age so well.
Right.
Whereas I am one of the
Pretentious.
most pretentious Americans
You're very
there has ever
pretentious.
been, and I'm aging poorly. So
Right. Now you're aging
there's-
beautifully. You're hot stuff.
But I got my Polly Walnuts hair since I was like 25.
Yeah,
Wearing wells back
You
in
wear
style.
it fucking
sides.
well.
But,
I want to
Gray
start
wings.
going gray. I've gotten jealous of people.
I just watched in my rewatch. I just got to the Italy episode of
you're
The Sopranos.
Sopranos.
Probably
Okay.
one. And the moment when he says like, "Can I just get some macaroni with gravy?" and he's there like eating the
It
squidding
sounds
pasta.
so good.
I know.
I think this episode's
Macaroni
coming out
with
after Halloween, so I can say safely, because I know the world is waiting with bated breath for this, that Asa is going to be, my son is going to be Tony Soprano this year, and I'm going to be Paulie, and my wife is going to be Furio. I don't know if the costume's going to turn out, especially because I think my velour tracksuit was
Your wife
stolen
is going to be a
off the
great
front of
Furio.
my porch, but
Also,
anyway.
I mean, in your journey of going through the various life stages as represented by different Seth Rogen movies, you're finally fulfilling this sort of promise of Neighbors.
Yep. Oh, we are
right.
very conscious of the Neighbors credits.
Right.
That were a real inspiration for
a
us.
masterpiece. No, but I've been struggling to verbalize this properly in a bunch of half-formed rants and various episodes we've done recently. But the sort of like lack of subtlety in Carpenter combined with the unpretentiousness, right?
Yeah.
And how I think so often people nowadays bump up against tonal weirdness and things like that. But I was reading all these quotes, him bagging on Scream and all of that, did kind of crystallize for me why I think Carpenter is like more well regarded now than he ever has been, because he is a very literal director. Like there is not ambiguity in that, and there is not the pomp and circumstance of it. He's just like telling you what he's telling you very straight, and also very concerned with entertaining you at the same time. And I think his sensibility has more and more, whether it's because of his influence or just the way that people's brains are broken, lined up with the way people like to process genre movies now.
The way that he thinks reminds me, especially listening to you talk about it just now, a lot of Soderbergh. If Soderbergh had the absolute opposite of his skill for being malleable and adjusting to the climate, if he just like could not change his ways and was just pissed off about everything and just dug his heels in the sand. Like they are similarly, I think, pragmatic in a certain way. But it's not like a blue collar vibe in the way that like Alien is like, oh, blue collar guys in space. It's just an unromanticized vibe. Like this is what this movie is. And it goes back to the quote that you had at the beginning of the episode. It's just vampires minus all of the romanticized flowery bullshit that's been put onto them. And that I think unfortunately manifests in a lot of homophobia in this movie. But the just because James Woods really picks up that ball and runs with it. But there's a feeling of like, you know, this is not your daddy's vampires. Like, this isn't about the steaks and the garlics and all that shit. And then it is, of course, also about all that shit, but they really make a song and dance of saying that
and it feels like the very premise of this movie as like a commercial proposition is like, imagine what John Carpenter does with vampires. Like calling a movie John Carpenter's Vampires is like, holy fucking
like
shit.
what's his take gonna be?
Right. It's not called John Carpenter's like steak stabbers or whatever.
No, it's
like,
it's very direct. John Carpenter has vampires.
Right.
What's he got? And he's like, they're like trashy roadies. You need to stab like 80 times.
But it's also like he seems more interested in vampire hunters than in dramatically upending the tropes of the vampire. Well, which he's just sort of stripping it away and returning it to basics. But you're not just like
no gothic stuff. They're just feral monsters.
Right.
They're not romantic.
They're meth addicts. I mean,
exactly.
They live. Their nests are essentially meth dens,
and you just have to drag them into the sunlight, and they're like, and that's it.
But like, let's say in terms of energy and mythology and what have you, they're not that different from say like Near Dark. Minus the punk element, the countercultural element.
Even in Near Dark, like they talk and they go to bars and they're kind of cool. Like they're not cool except for Valak, who you know, he's got a little flair. He's kind of fun. But like the rest of them are just like
they're kind of just like drug addicts.
They're just
there's a quote that he has somewhere where he's talking about how like his vampires wouldn't have time to intellectualize any of the thing. Like all they need to do is eat and tear shit apart.
Right.
And what a life.
The vampire movie started out as a gothic romance. Bram Stoker's Dracula is about a tragic figure contemplating his perverted immortality. Bela Lugosi, his vampire kind of became a friendly uncle. And now we have cute little Buffy. He clearly doesn't like Buffy.
Ugh.
This is 98, so it's like early Buffy.
Yeah. But Buffy's also falling into that postmodern.
It is. That's
Shit,
true. Very
right.
winky. Right. And her fanged friends in her living rooms each week. My vampires are savage creatures. There isn't a second of brooding loneliness in their existence.
Right.
They're too busy ripping humans apart.
No.
They'd have torn Buffy's liver out. Another liver
There you go.
reference.
There you go.
Before she knew what happened. Rude to Buffy.
Yeah.
Super
Yeah,
strong.
I mean, no joke intended, but it's like you want to get the bleeding heart shit out of vampires.
Yes. No,
Right.
absolutely. And like, of course, also in Buffy, it's like she hits you once and it's like she's hitting the putty patrol on the center button and they
Sure,
explode.
sure.
Whereas this, you really just gotta,
Yeah.
you make sure they're dead.
Right. He's a little more interested in the process. There, I
He
say
also
it.
doesn't like the Anne Rice type vampire. The
Right.
sort of
The
misunderstood
tragic
lonely
romance
vampire.
shit, all
Yes,
of that.
yes.
I
Right.
do. I mean, I'm sure we will talk at length about the jet fuel fucking explosions that come out of the vampires.
So cool.
But there's a great shot towards the end where you see James Woods, or the stuntman, subbing it for him, like rolling away from the explosion,
Mhm.
which is the opposite of the Buffy thing, where it's like as soon as you stab them in the heart, they sort of cease to be a physical presence. It's
Yeah.
just like hit the fucking deck because I'm gonna get caught on fire if this thing gets near me.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
rules.
And I mean that monologue is him like eliminating all of the supernatural elements to killing a vampire and just reducing it to like you just gotta fucking hack them to shit.
Sure do. Watch out
Yeah.
for those fuckers.
Yeah, with this really antiquated object.
It doesn't entirely line up with the mythology involved in the Catholic Church and all of that, because inevitably you have to get into that use of symbolism
Yeah.
and things of that nature. And I wonder if a John Carpenter,
John Carter.
I wonder what John
Mars.
Carter would do.
they both
Ghosts
met
of
on Mars in
Mars.
common.
Yeah, all right.
I liked it. I liked it.
They
There's something there.
if like this hadn't been the John Carpenter thing of the budget is going to be sliced to ribbons the night before the shoot, which at this point you would think you would just expect.
It was like 2 weeks
how much
before
more
filming. It
shock
went from
value?
$60 to $20 million, and he rewrote the whole screenplay. There had been 2 different drafts written by different men in the development period of this film. And when they cut the budget, he was like, I'm going to take both those drafts. I'm going to take the book and I'm going to pick and choose and find the things that are cheapest to execute.
And I think he kind of, I think that the book is maybe a little more expansive, and he was like, we're just going to have 4 characters for most of the movie. Well, like
Right.
really, it'll be James Woods. We haven't even talked about him, but Mr. Daniel Baldwin Esquire, Cheryl Lee, and
Is he
Tim
related
Gunny.
to Roman J. Israel Esquire?
You
I just-
imagine the $60 million version of this movie is the first 15 minutes for the whole movie. And
Which-
instead,
I would put on my monocle and check it out.
And
I
at some
would-
point,
to
it was
the
supposed to
HR.
be.
it would be cool.
The beginning, I am so fucking in.
Yeah, that's
When they open the door and that crew comes out and they start assembling their fucking gear.
Yeah.
I have mahogany. I have mahogany big time.
You got all the woods.
Yes.
I love how they look
James Woods.
like roadies. Like,
Yes.
you know what I mean? Like, they've all got their kind of, crates
Right.
of shit.
Right.
But he just doesn't seem. I mean, maybe Prince of Darkness notwithstanding, he just doesn't really seem super interested in the religiosity of it all, and like that feels like a
I mean, Prince of
burden that he has
Darkness
to
he
sort of carry
was.
with
But I mean,
him.
Prince of Darkness, he's also kind of like, I've been reading a lot of Scientific American, and it's kind of like, what if religion is science, right? Like he's kind of high on like
But,
molecules.
like, I mean, I already don't fucking remember, but did we counterpoint that there was some movie after Prince of Darkness where the church is like the one benevolent force that actually gets things right?
Wait, in the film or
No, in a different. There's a different.
God's not dead.
There's a different Carpenter post Prince of Darkness. I'm forgetting where it was like the framing of the church is the exact opposite. And you imagine that he'd be like, I don't know, that's what the story needed.
Wait, you're right. And what is it? Now I'm going crazy.
I know.
Were you not talking about vampire? Because the church is seen as the only thing that's sort of.
No, I know.
No, but then the guy is a bad guy.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
A little spoiler.
It was one of the ones right after.
Wasn't Memoirs of an Invisible Man?
No.
Church didn't play a big role in
Oh,
that.
it's They Live.
Yes.
It's
right.
They Live, where the
well,
church is
that's a-
secretly this
a sort of
countercultural force for good.
redistributive church.
Right.
But it's a specific church.
I mean, the
of course.
church does
Yeah.
not come off, smelling like roses. In this
And
movie.
by the way,
No, and
by
I
the
do
way,
think even if they weren't bad guys,
Sure.
their hiring of James Woods might reflect poorly on them. Yes,
Prince
go
of
ahead.
Darkness is a very specific church as well. It is just
That's
fascinating that those two movies are back to back and both have
It
a
is.
specific church and specific,
And
like,
as we said, it's that
Right.
one of those things where I would take that to Carpenter. He'd be like, I don't know,
right.
whatever. The script
Whereas
had a church.
This movie is more interested in like the Catholic
Yes,
Church
right,
with like
yes.
a capital T.
Those robed motherfuckers
right.
with jeweled crosses and
Right.
secret bank accounts.
Wasn't
it's kind
there-
of crazy. It's this really, really old institution
What-
that's
what is?
secretive
Wait,
and
what? What are you talking about?
like who knows what like
What if there
secrets
was a
they're
Da
hiding.
Vinci Code?
What are you talking about? The
Well,
Volturi?
Well, I'm just more saying.
Yeah, fucking Volturi.
I'm just saying. What if there's like a secret society,
Mm.
of like
Opus Dei.
assassins? Do you know what I mean?
Oh.
Okay.
Wait a
Like
second.
I like way better. I like
Wait
way
a
better.
second.
Wait. There's something to do with the apple?
Yeah, they looking for that.
Yeah, looking for that apple?
Yeah.
Get that apple.
Original sin's kind of a part of it.
Huh.
Part of it. Yeah.
No, wait. I can't remember.
So Dark the Con of Man?
The Da Vinci Code. Remember the Da Vinci? John Carpenter should have made the Da Vinci Code.
Yeah.
He would have kicked ass.
He
on
would
the
have
Da
kicked
Vinci
ass at
Code.
that.
Or Assassin's Creed should have made a game about vampires.
Or John Carpenter should have made Assassin. I mean, that's actually true.
He would love that.
Fuck.
That's my take. That's what he should do.
They should get him to direct an
Do Creed
episode of the
2.
Netflix show.
Oh God, they
Come
should.
on, just
Random
throw him a
episode.
bone.
Yeah. 4.
Which one do you want, John? I don't know. 4. All right. Is there a TV show? There's a TV show. Assassin's
Netflix,
Creed?
yeah,
So
there's a
far,
big,
all they've done in
live
2 years is release a logo, and it's the
Let
Assassin's
me guess,
Creed
it's an
logo.
A. Yeah, like it's big
But
A.
it's like redder than you'd think now because it's
Ooh.
Netflix, and it goes ta-dum.
David,
Mm-hmm.
you're a busy guy.
So busy. Always
host
got
a
stuff going
podcast.
on. I do.
It's Oscar season. You're jumping from screening to screening. Soon you're going to be having to take meetings
Yeah, so much going on.
for voting and things like that. Your awards. Not to mention, you got the boss baby at home, bossing you around, telling you what to do. Do you feel like you're wasting too much time trying to think about what to wear?
Yes, thank you. Yes, I do have my bossy baby. I do have my bossy bosses. I've got bossy Griffin in my ear. Let's not
The
forget about
bossiest.
him.
Very bossy.
So Mack Weldon's daily wear system, that's just a selection of clothes that's rooted in smart design and made with performance fabric that's built to work together. So you can just Mack Weldon your whole body.
Yes.
Button-ups, t-shirts, shorts, underwear, socks, everything. Mack Weldon makes it very easy to dress for work, leisure, and play. You know, it's all in one package.
The big 3: work, leisure, and play.
So, Mack Weldon, we've had them forever. I'm a big fan of their polos personally, Griff. I don't know about you.
Our first sponsor
Uh-huh.
ever.
I have some of their gym wear, for
Uh-huh.
exercise. For the ultimate lazy Sunday, apparently they've got these Ace sweat shorts with modern tailoring.
I'm wearing the Ace sweatpants right now,
Ooh.
and they are wonderful. And I hate to be an obvious auto, but for me, nothing beats their underwear.
Yeah, of course. That's sort of the classic from them.
It's
Looking
the
at these
classic.
sweatpants, though, that looks pretty good.
They're pretty good.
Got a
They're pretty good.
pocket?
They're pretty good.
Got a
Oh, it's got 2
drawstring.
pockets, my friend. Yeah.
Look, they've got those Pima tees, the sweat wicking
Mm-hmm.
clothes, silver knit and polo and radius shorts. Very high tech, highly packable combo. Look, you can buy some time with the Mack Weldon daily wear system for 20% off your first order. Visit MackWeldon.com/check and enter promo code check. That's MackWeldon.com/check, promo code check for 20% off. Mack Weldon, radically efficient wardrobing. The Catholic Church, yes. John Carpenter, like you said, Griff, rewrote the script. He wanted it to be gory. He wanted the movie to be pushed to the limit, and it sure was. It got an NC-17,
It did.
and they had to
Cut like
cut
20
out some
seconds.
gore, which I
Yeah.
think is now restored. I feel like the Blu-ray I'm watching probably has it back in.
You bought the Blu-ray. Humble brag.
Absolutely, it's a shout factory,
I know.
scream factory. Yep.
But surprise, surprise, he wanted Clint Eastwood. Once again, he did. It was another one of those fucking
John.
stories where he was like, I want the type of guy you never expect at the center of a picture like this. Not teeny bopper kids. Gotta be Clint. Like every fucking time he just wants Clint.
That Clint's pretty. I mean, I'd watch it.
Yeah.
I mean,
And Clint would
I'd
only
watch
do it if you could sing a song of the end credits.
Well, the studio,
John
the studio
Carpenter's
wanted
Vampires.
Casper Van Dien. That was who the studio was after.
Oh wait, he's from
Starship Troopers.
That is
Oh yeah.
so
Wow.
bizarre.
They wanted
guess-
a hunky young leading man.
I guess it just must have been, yeah. And at that point in time, everyone's just like, that's maybe the beginning of the fucking blonde, handsome, pretty boy has to be center of a franchise, even if he's never been in a movie before thing, where they're just sort of like, get a guy who looks like a Ken doll.
He needs to look like an action figure. Yes.
Right.
Yeah, that'll convince the audience.
Charisma will come later.
Whereas Carpenter correctly was like, this guy needs to act like, be like someone who's you think has been fighting vampires for a long
Right.
time. He needs to be grizzled and
He
older. And
Also
like a
wanted
gunfighter.
Arlie Ermy.
Well, that was
Really?
that
Can
was
you
the-
imagine?
That was the one. So I think everyone
But Arlie
else,
Ermy is very chill, right? I
what I read is that everyone else Carpenter suggested passed, and then the studio was like, under no fucking circumstances is this movie going to star Arlie Ermy. He had considered Clint Eastwood, Kurt Russell, Bill Paxton, Al Pacino,
Hey.
Joe Pesci.
Ooh, baby.
Interesting.
Oh man.
All
Get out of here, you
pass.
fucking
Oh, this
vampires!
motherfucker! I gotta stab him
The
in the
thing
chest.
is that, like, I could picture Joe Pesci in
Absolutely.
the lead role of this action movie, which
Absolutely.
is not a thing you can say about
No.
many action movies.
No, I think that's what's interesting about it. The quote was he wanted to avoid having, quote, just another muscle-bound meathead.
Yes,
But,
which I support him.
Right. Arlie Ermy was the one guy who would have done it, and so Columbia was like, no fucking way.
Right.
And then James Woods was sort of like a good compromise for everybody. I
Right, where
think.
that's
Right.
still a known actor.
He's a name.
an
He's got Oscar nominations. You can put him above the title.
not something I've heard said about James Woods in a while.
Well, but
but
you
back
know
in the day,
the other element of this.
what?
It was supposed to really be framed as a two-hander, of course, between Woods and Baldwin, and I speak of Alec Baldwin, because Alec Baldwin was supposed to do this fucking movie, and I think that probably made them more comfortable with James Woods being the lead.
Right. And then, well, that's how Daniel Baldwin got all his roles, right? They'd be like, Alec, you here, right? And he's like, yeah, it's me, Alec. And then he like signs his name Daniel, and they're like, he's like, it's too late, I signed the contract. You have to hire me now.
It is, I don't want to be too fucking mean here, but it is wild how much, like, when you watch a Billy Baldwin or a Stephen Baldwin, you go, they have their own thing
Look.
going on.
Look,
No.
They have their
It's-
own thing. And
Daniel
you watch
Baldwin.
Daniel, and Daniel is just like Walgreens Sudafed,
It's a
where
big,
it says
like-
compare to.
I mean, that's what you could say. It's more like you see Billy Baldwin, and you're like, no, this guy's got too much credibility. Trash here. You know what I mean? Where
Right.
it's like Billy Baldwin isn't good enough for you.
Daniel Baldwin is
Billy
the Tom
Baldwin's a little
Sizemore
too
of
slick.
Baldwins.
Wow. I think of like the SpongeBob meme, but of course, like the original version of that, which is like the Mr. Shake.
Yes.
Mr. Shake.
Like-
but he feels like a compromise between Alec and Steven, because James must have wanted Steven so they could talk about their like early neocon
Of course.
beliefs. And then Alec is just sort of the happy medium. I mean, Daniel's sort of
Right.
the happy medium between them.
I will say,
Daniel just feels like a guy you hire to play Alec Baldwin at a birthday party where your budget's pretty limited.
I will remind people that right at this moment,
Uh-huh.
he was on Homicide: Life on the Streets,
Sure.
which is not a hit show exactly, but it's a very well regarded
Respected.
show.
But
and
this
he's
is
good
also
on
like
it.
the moment he leaves the
It's
show.
right around when he leaves. He probably was like, I just got the vampire movie. See you fuckers later.
This is the moment like his life starts spiraling out of
Yes.
control.
Yes,
like
I
he's
think
having
he's
his
had
second
some
highly
issues with-
publicized
Right.
rehab stint, I believe, when this movie is being released.
He looks a little worse for wear. I'll say in a nice, kind way.
He looks like Alec Baldwin 15 years later.
Sure.
But like I feel like
He's
Where-
not
whereas-
the best actor who ever lived.
no. Whereas with Tom Sizemore, you know, a notoriously horrible person
Sure.
whose life is constantly in
But
chaos.
he's very compelling on screen.
And you're
Right,
like,
yes.
everything that all the demons of this guy are registering on camera in a way that is like, man, there's like a fucking storm inside of this dude. And you watch Daniel Baldwin, you're like, is this guy like doing okay? You don't have the juice of like, man, he's like a fucking a wild animal. You're just sort of like, is this guy gonna forget his lines?
The secret
you know?
to Tom Sizemore is every time I see him on screen, knowing full well about his off-screen struggles,
Yeah.
you always want that character to turn
That's
out
the
well.
other
You
thing.
want some goodness to emerge from there. And from with Stephen Baldwin, you just don't have the sense that there's anything happening inside
Daniel.
of that character.
Daniel
is-
Baldwin. Let me
it
shoot-
applies to them
Let me
both. Thank
shoot
you.
the Baldwin challenge at you, Griffin.
Okay.
Can you name the 4 Baldwin actors in order of age?
Oh,
Who's
boy.
the oldest to the youngest?
Yeah. Alec is the oldest, correct?
Born in
Okay.
1958.
I want to say then it is Stephen.
Daniel, born in 1960. Second oldest. Number 2. That's why when Alec didn't get it, or he couldn't do it, he was like, by the laws of the Baldwin Brotherhood, they must pass the
chain of succession.
He gets first right of refusal.
Then Steven, then's Billy.
Then Billy, 63.
Wow.
Steven's the baby.
This is the
66.
thing. Steven reads as the baby, which is why I thought he's deceptively older.
He is the youngest of the Baldwin brothers.
But of course he's the baby. I was overthinking it.
To reference The Sopranos, Griffin, you do not know yet, possibly.
The show I'm
you know.
currently on season 2 of.
But there is a later season arc in which a movie is made, and he is in the movie. And Daniel.
Okay.
And the sort of joke being like, it's the kind of direct-to-video movie that he would be in. It's he's well cast.
Sure.
There's a line, I think, where Tony says, like, he's a tough motherfucker. And I always thought, if I was Daniel Baldwin, I would... I would take that home with me. That's good.
It's
Tony
a really
thinks I'm
thankless. I mean, he's on the best show, that had been made.
But
at
he's
that time.
playing someone where
it's
you're
a thankless role.
They
and
only got Daniel Baldwin.
They had to do him a solid to like really make it worth his while. To show him some love.
Yeah.
So he's in the film. He plays Tony Montoya.
Can you imagine?
Right hand man.
Can you imagine if fucking Alec Baldwin was in this movie?
It would be better. I would love like maybe even 5 years younger Alec Baldwin. I'm trying to think, where's Alec Baldwin
or
in
5 years
98?
older. He's in a weird spot at this exact moment, but you still have to imagine he's a big Carpenter fan. He always wanted to work with Carpenter. He like actively sought out this movie. And then it was scheduling problem with something else, right? Like he had to drop out
The
pretty
Edge,
late.
because like that was one of those movies that kind of took up too, because that's 97.
Like Bart the Bear does not adjust his schedule for anyone.
Exactly. He had just been in Ghosts of Mississippi with James Woods too, so they're a double act.
This movie, like 2 weeks before it's about to start filming, is suddenly like your budget is a third of what you thought it was, and the Baldwin you have is a third of what you thought it was. Like just
Alec, we're replacing Alec with another Baldwin. All right, I'll take Billy. It's not Billy.
Steven, I can rewrite it. I can take a pass at the screenplay.
Is it one of the Baldwins that has that hair? Yes, fine.
Shit. Alec, he's in Mercury Rising this year, which I think he's the sort of second lead in. Is he the villain in that?
He's sort of the Colin Farrell to the Minority Report. Right.
It would be better with Alec Baldwin. I think it was say that everyone in this movie is, everyone else is pretty good. Cheryl Lee is well cast.
Yes.
I mean,
not the greatest role.
The problem regarding cast of this movie is not the caliber of the actors they got, but how poorly they use some of the great actors.
I was going to say, I think the problem is you would rather that someone like Mark Boone Jr. stays around for the rest of the running time rather than the rest of the movie being hinged on Daniel Baldwin.
Right.
And Tim Gunny. I mean, I don't want to be mean about that guy either. Sure. He's Gwynny, however you say his name.
Cary Hiroyuki Tagawa.
Well, he rules.
Yes. What a good
What a face. Yeah. And he disappears.
Yeah.
But Tim Gunny, he's okay.
It just, all of these good people being sort of misused or underused makes every time they cut back to Montoya a little more irksome, because you're just like, I'm not really interested in this guy. For me, I don't know
that I'm only interested in him so far as I'm trying to figure out to what degree he should be put in jail. Once his and we'll get there with the plot, but like when his decision is to tie Cheryl Lee nude in bed, butt side up, as if sheets weren't invented until the early 2000s, is a choice. Particularly for two characters who, in their 5 minutes of screen time together, are supposedly in love.
Well, and James Woods has that Faustian thing where you're like, this guy's a piece of shit. I don't like anything he's fucking doing on screen, but I can't deny he's compelling. And then when a Daniel Baldwin is playing a guy doing equally unsavory things, you're just like, yeah, I don't want to watch this anymore. Don't put this in front of me. I don't like this. There's no...
Yeah, it's also the thing that he's abusive, but then kind of eventually starts to warm up to her. And it's like, just, the typical example of a like abusive relationship.
Yes.
And it's just, as much as you're like, oh, well, actually, maybe he has a heart. You can't remove yourself from like, they're treating her like basically she's just like a piece of trash.
Yeah.
Well, they're
turning into
vampires.
Well, right. She's about to turn into a vampire. And therefore, she's dead.
Right.
But also, she is still alive,
and
technically.
Pleading for,
and they're dragging her around on
some
the
humanity.
Street.
Yeah.
It's
all true.
I mean, smacking her around and shit.
I think they're sort of, and this does not play in a way that registers as humane at all. But I think they're sort of going for this idea that they've been hunting vampires for so long, and James Woods' character himself has seen such grisly things in his own family that they've sort of lost any sort of compassion for other people. And in the way that is channeled in this late 90s affect, it becomes that they are basically the most misogynistic people alive.
As much as this movie is not postmodern, it does have that like post-Tarantino cynicism to it.
I must read this quote from Cheryl Lee about preparing to play this character. I would like to meet someone now who thinks they're a vampire. In researching for this film, there was a lot of comical stuff about them. I need the serious stuff. But yeah, it's kind of freaky to go, yeah, I'd like to meet a vampire. So Cheryl Lee, I don't think she succeeded.
No.
But probably made a phone call and was like, do you know anyone who like is like, I am a vampire? I'd love to talk to them.
I have met people who identify as vampires. I'm surprised it was that hard to find. Maybe the 90s were just a harder time.
Well, no internet or nascent internet. Who have you met who identifies as a vampire?
You know how many fucking comic conventions I've gone to in my life?
And they're like, hello, my name is, Vlad.
Right, you meet people
I am a vampire.
Where you're like, oh, like nice teeth. And they're like, yeah, I hired a dental surgeon. Like people who are just like pot committed to the thing.
They still went to a Comic-Con convention during the day. Wow.
That's a good point.
Did they have a black staff?
Look, I cannot conjure a specific memory. I definitely
you don't want a cross.
In the various fucking nerdy spheres.
Was one of them Wesley Snipes? Because that would explain why they were able to go out in the sun.
I mean,
everyone just wants to be the Daywalker in these movies. It's always the plot. What if I could be Wesley Snipes?
He's the only one who can walk both worlds.
Yeah.
He can't. Well, and it's worth noting, of course, Blade comes out the same, pretty much around when this movie comes out, which doesn't help this movie. This movie actually got delayed.
I was thinking about that
Blade.
A lot.
Yeah.
Blade really just goes like, and this is the vampire movie that everyone wants to see in 1998.
That's the thing. I think John Carpenter's like, yeah, I'm going to give you a gritty Western where the vampires are just kind of like trash creatures. And Blade's like, we're going to give you like a fucking MTV movie where Blade's got a cool sword and the vampires go to clubs and shit. And people are like, one ticket, please.
Not only that, it's the movie that casts like the fucking storm of just like everything's going to superheroes. We're taking a fucking horror
right
premise
at the start there, yes.
and we're yanking it over the line to superhero, and then everything is going to get pulled in this direction.
I'd say the only middle ground in that Venn diagram is with the villains, with Thomas Ian Griffith and Stephen Dorff, are like basically giving off the same energy, but in
similar
very different,
yes. That's true.
Different vibes.
Yeah.
I like Blade.
I do too.
As a man,
fucking rules.
Yes.
We talked because you rewatched them fairly recently, right? The trilogy.
We could do them.
You know who would have?
It's just that we are always dancing around.
We'll do that.
Who would have fucking ruled in the lead role of this movie is Chris Christopherson.
Sure. Oh, sure. Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, I think James Woods rules in it. It's just you're thinking of all these guys who are that energy where it's like they've been around the block.
Right.
But they used to be hot. Now they're, kind of, whatever,
like,
striking.
Look, Pesci is the version of this movie I most would have liked to have seen because it just would have been such an interesting object.
You just want more Pesci.
The advantage of Woods in this is that Woods has such good comic delivery, right? Like Woods has that thing where I'm just like, why am I fucking laughing at this? That I think Pesci was able to pull off as well at his peak where he's just like, this guy's a fucking psychopath.
Right.
Let's go on fishing.
I think he was still fishing when they made this. That was part of the issue.
But more like in Scorsese dramas, Pesci's always so funny, and you're like, God damn it, why is this guy fucking winning me over? He's a monster.
The thing and obviously the script plays a large part of this, but when you cast James Woods, this becomes a movie about what if the most loathsome person alive was all that stood between us and the apocalypse.
Right.
Sure. Like that's really what this
You're not
film
really rooting for him.
You're rooting against the Catholic Church.
You're rooting against the church who seem bad and vampires who also seem bad, but it's sort of a dark world out there is the read.
It's like
vampires.
This is the guy who we are counting
and
on.
He's kind of the like, I'm the guy who fucking takes care of the things you don't want to think about type guy, right? He's like, I've seen things you wouldn't believe and I'm a piece of shit because
it's the lack of romance of it. It's like being a vampire hunter. Like, sure, you get to have these like orgiastic parties if you do the job right one night that don't always end well.
And the local sheriff is just totally chill with it. Yeah. He's fine with it. Yeah,
absolutely. But the job is not a romantic one. I mean, you get weapons. And,
he's got no love interest.
But it's
no. There's a little bit of the fucking you were never really here thing of just like this guy's like life is committed to a thing that sucks that he hates that's like draining the joy out of him. He's like a husk of a man who just exists on like cynicism alone. I feel like there's some other movie we've talked about where you have that kind of character.
That vibe, yeah. They're definitely
where the guy is just all defensive sarcasm because it's just like, well, he's just seen too much shit and he doesn't believe humanity is capable of good anymore. I mean, my favorite line delivery in this entire movie is James Woods at the end to Maximilian Schell saying like, you're a real pile of dog shit, Cardinal, which is just like such an incredible straight shot. And I was just like, fuck. And then he follows it up with like 2 more homophobic slams. Calls him like a pole smoker and a fudge packer and like the next, like a run-on sense, but just, you're a real pile of dog shit, Cardinal. Is such a good thing to have James Woods say.
To Maximilian Schell.
To like, right, like this August actor.
Yeah. The heel, the reverse heel turn or whatever that the character takes in this movie where he just hazes the new Padre to hell and back for the better part of an hour. And then as soon as
you're all right.
He's like,
yeah, you're a pretty good kid. Here's a buck. Go get yourself some bubble gum.
There is not a line of dialogue in this movie. There is no scene where 2 men are speaking to each other or a man is speaking to anyone else where they are not measuring dicks. The scene that epitomizes that
I'm gonna say the same thing.
Iconically for me is when Daniel Baldwin is checking into the hotel. There should be no aggression here. He's like slightly harried about the fact that Cheryl Lee's turning into a vampire in the car, but like he's got no problem with this guy. He goes in, he's just like, hey, and the guy's like, oh yeah, we got a room. And he's like, fuck you. Like, give me the fucking key.
They're all just like, so
okay. Everyone relax.
They're all so hair trigger.
They're a little worked up because they're vampire hunters.
They are.
It really gets you on edge.
Do you think they get vacation time?
Like, you'd have to take it up with either James Woods or the Catholic Church.
Right.
Like, take your pick. Who do you want to ask?
I'm just wondering if they have benefits. Like,
I'm guessing, Ben, the obvious benefit they have, which I imagine was your favorite part of the movie, is their vampire hunt van.
Yeah.
They got a classic van full of weird silver aluminum tech.
Dude, the design of all of their shit, it's a beautiful design. There's like obviously just the classic like wood stakes that look amazing, but like that like huge like staff or whatever, like with the spike on it, like, and then James's fucking harpoon gun.
Very cool.
Is so fucking cool. I was like searching. You can buy a harpoon gun.
But once again, it's like,
and be careful.
Right. Okay, sorry. You can get a crossbow just like right now.
There's a space for it in your beautiful cabinet full of antique plates.
You have 15 minutes of a $60 million movie.
Sure.
Right? Where it's almost a little more Ghostbusters-y.
Yeah.
In the sort of process of how, the team operates.
Yes. The argument.
And the equipment and everything. And then it becomes,
Right. The argument is, might it just be more fun to have a vampire hunter movie where it's just a bunch of guys hunting vampires?
They're just the best at what
I mean, I believe the book has the same premise where there's the early setback, Valak appears, people die, they have to chase him or whatever.
But I think Carpenter had to make the setback more devastating to fit
this movie certainly slows down.
Yes.
I'm not going to deny it.
Sure.
But also, anytime the vampires are in sunlight, it's like, and then they explode.
But
do you remember that?
I remember that.
And if you stab them, you have to be like, ah! Do you remember that?
I really enjoy it. It really feels like a jetliner is taking off in someone's arm every time they are exposed to sunlight.
Yeah.
Which is a great look.
It's
and
a great look.
If you could incorporate that into like day-to-day fashion, there's just plumes of little cones of fire.
Of fire?
At all times, yeah.
It was an effect they worked hard on. They were like, we want the combustion to be unique looking.
If anyone
like,
can do it, I'm sure it's you.
I think I could come up with something there. Yeah.
Right. Workshop that for later. Okay. But this is a movie, when you look at the budget that they ran with, the $20 million, I have to say, I'm like, where is it? Like, how I don't even see the $20 million on screen here. Was James Woods like 15 mil for this? Was he at those Jim Carrey numbers these days?
I think Carpenter has gotten, I don't want to say sloppy, but he used to be so good at maximizing every dollar and putting everything on screen.
And the best thing about him,
it is very easy if your movie costs like more than $6 million to then cost $20 million, which is just sort of like bloat and sort of laziness and lack of oversight or whatever, where I just think it costs more money because it costs more money. Like they were just like, it's this type of movie. And he's like, okay, I'll just like kick back and let things go rather than being very strategic about like, where can I save a nickel here and reapply it there?
I wonder if all the money went into the fire.
I mean, very
in
possibly.
Which case, worth it.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention this.
Yeah.
And this may reflect poorly on John Carpenter, but whatever.
Okay.
His quote is, one of the things I liked the most about making vampires is I was hanging out with the bad boys, James Woods and Daniel Baldwin. This was a fun movie to make. The Bad Boys.
The Bad
3 years after the original Bad Boys.
I'm very relieved that quote ends when it does.
Yeah, it's not
I don't want to hear anything.
We would go
more.
to bars and get in a lot of trouble. Like, it's not that bad, but he is sort of like, those are some bad boys.
Because when I watched this movie,
it's no question about it. Jeffrey enjoys his personal life.
It's not that.
I mean, it just feels like the toxic energy that was wafting off of this set. To me, it feels like I would rather be on the set of like fucking Heart of Darkness or like Herzog's La Souffrier.
But I would say that what you're describing, I would say adds to the, je ne sais quoi of vampires.
It is a movie that feels like it smells terrible.
Exactly. Yes. The Bad Boys.
It smells like cigars. It
Yes.
kind of smells like your uncle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just picturing like Brendan Fraser and Bedeviled being transported. He's like, I wish I could be on a John Carpenter set. And he gets there and he sees like the vampires and the weapons. And he's like, yeah, it's amazing. And then he sees fucking James Woods walk out. And he's like, no, Elizabeth Hurley, you foiled me again.
Daniel Baldwin. They should have fucking just run with it and had this poster be Woods Baldwin. Because the poster also, all the guys are kind of in silhouette. They might have been able to trick them. Just Woods Baldwin, no first names.
I'm looking at what he's got going on. He's, Boss Baby.
He's considering the source.
Well,
he played your daughter.
The source. He apparently is in something called Supercell.
Okay.
Sounds like a disaster movie. Right, he was in Dr. Death. That's the thing.
Right.
That's the thing. Now actors will be in whole miniseries that appeared on that one's Peacock.
Yeah.
Where like a friend of mine will be, did you watch Dr. Death? And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Right.
And they're like, Alec Baldwin, Christian Slater,
Isn't there
I'm
a
like,
third
what?
person? The poster is 3.
Joshua Jackson.
Yeah.
He's Dr. Death.
Yeah.
And it's about a real guy the doctor who killed people.
It's like
based on a podcast
series.
And I'm like, this all happened?
Every time I walk by one of those Subway ads, it feels like threat level midnight or some shit. Like I'm just like, this isn't real.
It feels like something that came out or was supposed to come out at the start of the pandemic, and they just left the posters up and it became vaporware.
It's so bizarre.
Baldwin would be better. Even tired Baldwin. We agree with that.
And I think he would have relished not having to be the dude. David?
Yes, Griffin.
When I was on Doughboys recently, I was on a live show with them.
Yeah, you were jealous.
Hey, it was on you. You decided to go on vacation. We were talking about hot dogs.
A lovely food item.
Great. My father, past and future guest Peter Newman. We invoked how his favorite restaurant in the world was Gray's Papaya.
Great restaurant.
The best, and he would get the recession special there every day, which was 2 dogs and a large drink.
Yes, a fruity drink.
Right. And then he got very self-conscious with like the health dieting craze of the early 2000s. And so his concession was, I'm going to get 2 dogs and 1 bun.
Oh, he would just take one out of the bun or just
he'd say, I'll have a recession special,
one of them?
But can you just put both of the wieners in 1 bun? And he called it Modified Atkins.
Wow, that's impressive.
Modified
Your
Atkins.
dad,
right?
The original diet fad man. I kind of want to do that now. Now I'm intrigued.
Modified Atkins. Yeah, you got to try the Modified Atkins. Look, the point is, I'm sure it tastes great, but I don't know if that was a very healthy way of living.
Look, I don't think he was using a psychology-based approach to change his mindset there. I don't think he was building better habits to make a more sustainable journey to better health. I don't want to be rude.
I'm not trying to drag my father, but I did, in fact, put him out in front of an ad read as an example of what not to do.
You did do that, but he maybe would be interested in Noom.
He probably would.
Is an app that's going to put you on a path towards better health one step at a time. They have a psychology-based approach. They're going to help you change your mindset rather than just demanding a whole new lifestyle. Okay?
That's good because, my father doesn't like changing much or of anything
he
in
needs
his life.
Little incremental shifts, right? So maybe it would help him think about how he shops, maybe think about help him think about his cravings. Not going to see food as bad food, such as buns. But he's going to learn about the psychology of eating. He's going to maybe be a little more flexible about his lifestyle. Because I know your dad, he likes routine.
Absolutely. Yes. Like both of us, a man of routine. Yes.
It's true. Noom's cognitive behavioral approach focuses on why instead of what to help you change your relationship with food. Everybody's journey looks different. Noom believes it's about progress, not perfection. 75% of users finish the program, and they've published over 30 peer-reviewed scientific journal articles about the science that goes into their approach of helping people achieve a healthier way of life. All you need is 10 minutes a day, fits into your life on your terms, no grueling early mornings or huge chunks out of your day.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, like, Noom probably let you still keep eating the hot dogs. They just explain to you your thinking might not be correct about this.
Everyone can approach this right in their own ways. It's not a one size fit all thing. Start building better habits for healthier long-term results. Yeah, I'm doing it. You can sign up for your trial at noom.com/check. That's noom.com/check. That's it. Noom.com/check.
That's it. That's simple. That's all it is. It's noom.com/check. It's a free trial. It's noom.com/check. That's all you gotta do.
That's all you gotta do.
That's all you gotta do. What I was gonna say is, imagine Baldwin playing this with the energy of Married to the Mob, which was the movie where everyone went like, whoa, who the fuck is this guy? And then when they put him into the leading roles, he got a little dulled. But
he's still good.
Married to the Mob, he has the charisma, he's got the danger, he's a little scary.
Hairy chest.
He plays his death really well. Right. I'm just like, imagine him being, I don't know.
Hairy chest representation is increasingly rare these days, and it is something I appreciate.
Especially I love Daniel Craig. I think he's great. I've been so happy to see him play James Bond. He's smooth like a fucking shark.
Yeah.
And then you throw on Tomorrow Never Dies, and there's a forest on Pierce's chest.
What we need,
a beautiful forest,
is for the next James Bond to be Dan Hedaya.
Yeah, of course.
I think I don't know if I shared this anecdote on the podcast. I realized deep in the pandemic that Dan Hedaya lives like 2 blocks away from me.
Shit.
And I was at like this little like hole in the wall sort of takeout place, like sitting outside on a park bench. And Hedaya, I saw him walk out of his apartment building from the front door. And I was like, is that Dan Hedaya? He got closer. He walked in. He picked up his lunch. He walked away. And I was like, holy shit, Dan Hedaya. And I fully recognized him immediately from across the street while wearing a fucking face mask.
But he was shirtless, so that's what gave it away.
Ehrlich, he had 2 layers on. He had a tight collar, but the way the hair was spilling out,
you always see it. It's just peeking.
It was incredible. Like there was just no doubt in my mind that it was Hedaya, and it was because of it was the necklace. It was the fur necklace coming around the collar and the eyebrows, where I was like, that is unmistakably Dan Hedaya.
We can never lose him.
They should do
can never
He's
lose
81
him.
years old. I won't let him go.
He should donate his hair to someone like Jerry Orbach's eyes. You can see an ad on the subway that's like someone now is walking around with a full hair of head.
Right.
He's one of
1 inch.
One shoulder.
One of our great Jews who plays Jewish people sometimes, but plays Italian people all the time.
Yeah.
Because you're just like,
Tortellis.
exactly. You're like, well, that guy's Italian, right?
Yeah.
But he's not.
He's not.
He's not. He's Jewish.
He's not.
David, you have a hairy chest. A wonderfully hairy.
Wait,
chest.
Add it to the blank check wiki, please.
Absolutely.
You told me the other day what your son likes to call your arms.
Oh yes.
What does he call your arms?
Yes. So we read Pat the Bunny,
Great book.
which is it's a phenomenal book. And there's a page in Pat the Bunny that makes me laugh every single time that my almost 2-year-old son obviously doesn't understand, where it says like it asks the child to touch daddy's scratchy face. And if you say to Asa, touch daddy's scratchy face, he will stop whatever he's doing and like run his fingers across my face.
Right. And it's
you
like
can say,
a fucking nail file,
Yeah.
right? Like the texture in the book itself.
Yes,
which
it
is
is,
how
yeah.
my face feels for half of every week, much to my wife's great chagrin. And then you can say, touch daddy's scratchy arms.
He
and
calls
he
it
will,
daddy's scratchy arms.
He will rub his
I
arms.
just found that
really,
very
daddy's
cute.
scratchy anything. Although my arms are more fluffy than scratchy.
You got fluffy
I would
arms.
say.
I
They're
just
very
like
good.
calling it daddy's scratchy arms.
Damn right.
Daddy's
That could be
scratchy
the
arms.
name of a
Ace,
fucking hipster bar.
Ace is so. I watched the video of him declining to hug you, and
That's
taking
the one you
keys.
gravitate
It's
to?
so funny.
Just for Schadenfreude.
Keys, and you're like, "Can I get a hug?" And he goes, "No," and give him the
He only
keys.
wants the keys.
Yeah,
Kids, man, gotta love them.
He's-
Something that
Yeah, I agree.
Jack Crow never got a chance to have.
is that the character from Vampires? What a great name,
Sure is.
Jack Crow
It's
is.
James in quotes Jack.
Apparently, it's
Well,
John. Actually,
Whatever.
And
Yeah.
Team Crow?
James Woods.
Isn't that
James
they
Woods,
call
right,
themselves Team Crow?
I mean, pretty cool name for a team.
Yeah, pretty
You
cool
ask
name
me.
for a team.
For a
Yeah.
vampire hunting team.
Yeah, pretty cool.
We're not going to go into the plot of this movie. I don't.
I mean,
Here's the plot of the movie.
They hunt vampires.
The fucking Catholic Church is like, this vampire is really bad. Then
It's the
they
original vampire.
realize they didn't find like
The OG?
what do they call it? The grandfather of the group or whatever.
The master. I
The
believe.
master.
Yes.
So they go on this larger mission, but the master kills like fucking most of his men,
Balak.
and they assign him this junior priest who tells him
Kingpin.
that the problem is that he's got a cross.
Yeah, he's
Basically-
Or
trying.
he wants to
he's-
get a cross that will make him immortal and able
Exactly.
to walk during the day.
He's
He is
trying
the
to become a
original
daywalker.
vampire.
He is Valak. He's the original vampire. Go ahead, Ben.
I just wanted to say that
plot's-
every
yeah.
time he meets somebody, he beats them up and like throws them out of a car like immediately.
Yeah.
the scene with that scene is amazing.
It's fucking crazy. He just met this guy.
It's because everyone keeps accusing him of doing cocaine.
the other
He will not tolerate
The
that.
other funny thing is he's called Valak, which is like a demon name from
Yeah.
like the Lesser Key of Solomon, or like, you know, which is then the name that The Conjuring 2 uses for the nun.
Oh, right.
And the Crooked Man, like the villain of that
Right,
movie.
right.
But it's like it's just both times I think they're just like, that's a cool name.
Yeah.
Like, it has nothing
It's a
to
good
do with
name.
vampires or nuns.
Right.
I also love that he just had a trading card made in the 1300s of
Why not?
himself.
Yeah.
You
Because
know?
he was fucking cool.
Yeah, he was ahead of the game.
He was
Watch
ahead of the
out
game.
for
He was making merch
He's
before
played-
any of us.
played by what's
Thomas
his name?
Ian
Thomas
Griffith.
Griffith, who's very tall
Yeah.
and fairly imposing.
Is that not the same name as the kid from?
Thomas Ian Nichols.
There you go.
Thomas
Okay.
Ian
I
Nichols
was
is
getting
the
them
rookie of
confused.
the year,
Right.
correct?
He was our rookie
Pitchers-
of the year. And
got
he was a
it.
kid in King Arthur's
A
court, and then he, of course, is the most compelling character in the American Pie saga.
I can't tell you how many times I deliberately broke my arm as a 12-year-old, just hoping that I would magically
rookie of the year
become an
powers.
all-star
Yeah.
pitcher.
Wait, in American Pie, is he with Tara Reid?
Yes.
Correct. And he is very much the character that you can tell was intended to be the lead of the movie, and
Right.
everyone else pops more than him.
They do.
And he just sticks around the whole franchise and never really has anything to do. I think they drop him in 3.
He may not even be in 3. I do remember that because Tara
Oh,
Reid.
no,
Whoa,
he's
whoa,
in 3.
whoa, whoa,
He's in
whoa,
3.
whoa.
He's in 3. Klein is dropped in 3. Sorry.
Yes.
Klein is
but
dropped in
for
because he
reasons
couldn't
unknown,
recover.
I think
Well, Street Fighter: The Legend of
He was
Chun
too
Li
hot.
did him in.
I
think he
watched
wanted-
all 4 of them in one night recently.
There's what's the 4?
Reunion.
Reunion, baby.
Oh, 3 is
Hayden
wedding,
Schlossberg.
right?
Yes, 3 is wedding.
And
but
I believe they made direct-to-video ones in between 3 and 4, and
They
then
are
it was
not
just
canon.
like
They
we're
are not
back.
canon.
Correct.
to
Book
canon.
of
Correct.
Love,
But Thomas Ian
Naked
Nichols, you can
Mile.
tell like everyone else has their role, and he's supposed to be like the center force. There's the reason that he's the one who gets like the advice from fucking Casey Affleck, and he's just the most boring character. And by American Wedding, they're just like, we have no idea who this guy is.
Well,
Like we have
from-
nothing to do with
From
him.
what I remember of American Pie, of course, the four boys want to lose their virginity,
They do. That is in
And-
fact the
and-
central conflict. of
and
the movie.
Jason Biggs loses it to Shannon Elizabeth.
no,
he
to
doesn't.
Allison Hannigan.
To Allison Hannigan, right. Sorry.
He
Okay.
blows it with Nadia.
Well, you know,
Again?
Finch, is it Finch?
Loses his
loses it
virginity
to
to
Jennifer
Stifler's mom,
Coolidge.
Jennifer
Right.
Coolidge. Right.
Chris Klein loses it to
He doesn't.
nobody. They decide not to. Him and Mina Suvari.
They just lay in each other's arms and watch the sun rise and realize it's not.
And here's
important.
what I was getting to. Thomas Ian Nicholas loses it to Tara Reid, but their sex scene is that they're kind of lying awkwardly on each other, and he's like, "Does this hurt?" And she's like, "Yeah, a little bit." And
Yeah.
it's like a honest depiction of teenage virginity
Right,
loss,
which
is
as
also
opposed
so
to
He's
the-
supposed to be
Exact-
the
that's what I'm
straight man
saying, like,
protagonist.
they give him the one where
Right.
it's like, and this is what it's really. You're not gonna fuck your friend's mom on a pool table. It's just gonna be kind of like, "You okay?" And she's like, "Yeah."
and the
you know,
whole movie
like-
is the
like, that's
hand
it.
wringing of like, I don't know if I feel this way, this and that. Obviously, I'm going to spend the rest of my life with him. And after they sleep together, there's like this moment that I think is actually executed very well, where it
Right.
becomes very clear for both of them of just like, we're never going to date ever again.
Exact-
This is the end.
So that's the whole thing where I'm like that, and our friend Chris White.
It's the white
But
sensitivity.
sort of
That's
like
where you
that-
feel it.
And
Yeah.
then, of course, audiences walk out and they were like, number one guy who fucked the pie, guy who fucked Stifler's mom,
Right.
the sort of guy from Election who was
snob,
okay. And those are the main characters,
Stifler,
right? Yeah,
right,
Stifler's
like, it's
good.
like- it's just funny, and then he exists.
The Eastern European lady, right?
Right, and then his role in the second movie is
It's that he and
Tara
Tara
Reid's
Reid
dating someone else now,
won't
and
admit
he's just
that they still like each other or something.
Well, it's
Yeah.
also
they're
it's
broken up.
the
I remember.
the
Yeah.
follow through of you are
what's
way too hot and advanced for me.
Yes.
And now we're going to see the real world implications of that when you come back to this party with your
It's
college
funny
boyfriend.
that he just becomes less and less centralized in each movie.
Who's the one? Sherman.
Yeah.
The Shermanator.
Shermanator. He sleeps with Nadia. I watched all 4 of them in
Remember
one
the
night
Shermanator?
fucking 5 months ago when my gallbladder was exploding.
Shermanator was an icon. The same actor stole the gumball machine at the end of Can't Hardly Wait.
He's fucking incredible.
Can't Hardly
Angus.
Wait. In what?
Angus, my beloved Angus.
Oh, you love Angus, right? I've never seen Angus.
Oh, David. Ehrlich, have you seen Angus?
Yeah, I lived Angus, baby.
Angus rules.
I mean, I was real, as you would say, deep in the pocket
Yeah.
in all of. I wish I could remember that actor's name. His face will forever be etched in my memory.
Angus or the
no,
Shermanator?
the Shermanator.
His fucking name is why?
But if he was
it's
in
killing
something,
me.
I was there
looking it
opening
up.
night.
Chris
Owen.
Thank you.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Aside from Eugene Levy, the only actor to appear in the direct-to-video spin-off American Pies.
In any of them.
He is in.
What's his character's name
Bandcamp.
again?
Wait, are you
David?
implying that?
No. Eugene Levy.
Jim's dad.
Oh, right, of course.
Are you implying that the direct-to-video American Pie sequels were just a one-man movie of Jim's dad?
Well, he's in all
and then there
of
was
them.
just one other actor, and it was Chris Owen. And
One
they
of
were
them is like
sometimes doing a
Secret Honor.
two-hander.
One of them is just Jim's
Right, one of
dad
them's
on the eve of his retirement from whatever
Sitting there
job
with
he
like
does.
an old copy of Jim's Penthouse,
Yeah,
just
in his
being-
office,
yeah,
spiraling out, dealing with being an empty nester.
talking about his uncle Norm, who used to whack it 6 times a day.
That's another weird thing. They make the parents be divorced in Reunion, that they split up at some point so that Jim's dad can fuck Stifler's mom. That's like the big.
Was his mom
It's
Jane
like
Kazmarek, or am I making
Kong
that
versus
I think
Godzilla.
that's right. It's Jane Kazmarek.
No. I
Who
want to
is
say
it?
it's Molly Cheek from It's Gary Shandling Show.
Because Jane Kazmarek is the mom in Pleasantville.
Yes.
Let's see. Jim's mom is played by Molly Cheek.
Thank you.
Go for
From
Griffin.
what did you say?
It's Gary Shandling
It's
Show.
Gary Shandling Show, and then Harry and the Hendersons.
Yeah, good pull, Griff.
Now
That's why you get that Schmodown's money.
American
I watched that whole
Pie-
thing the other day, by the way, and I never had a doubt in my mind. I mean, no disrespect to
We never
Josh, a
talk
lovely
about
man,
Schmodown.
but
Yeah.
I didn't know what a Schmodown was, so
Yeah.
I had to watch it while Ace ate dinner, and Griff just dismantled that. I dismantled Josh like he was a piece of IKEA furniture. He was ready to put on.
I
the
didn't
street,
feel good
you know?
about it. I didn't feel good.
Yeah, you did a great job. Can you, much like the Baldwin Challenge, the American Pie direct-to-video challenge, give me the American Pie direct-to-video sequels in order?
Fuck. Okay, I'm gonna try. And this, of course, is a very, very focused episode on John Carpenter's vampires.
We do have more.
James
to say.
love
I
James
got
John
Carpenter.
Carpenter's
some more talking
vampires.
points there.
Okay. American Pie, American Pie 2, American Wedding.
Yeah, sure.
Then I think, I think the first
Technically, this is the American Pie Presents series. That's what it's
right.
called.
I think the first direct-to-video one is Bandcamp.
Correct. This
Okay.
one time at Bandcamp.
Okay, then I think the next one is
Naked Mile.
They dared run it.
okay.
The
That's gonna be my
Naked
guess.
Mile
so then
itself.
Is 3 Book of Love?
No, of course. 3 was the most outrageous slice of pie, according to this video cover, Beta House.
Wow.
Jeez.
I have an envelope right here. I want to
And
give it to David.
And then they dared. Bug Hall is the star of the Book of Love.
Okay.
They opened the book.
That's the one. It's the book that fucking Casey Affleck hid that tells you how to have sex.
Apparently someone gets sodomized by a moose in that one. And then, of course, finally, what?
Girls
American
Rule?
Pie Girls Rules?
Right.
Wait a second.
This
the
was-
girls have rules? I don't really
This
get
was
what
the
that's
post. No, it was the post.
Post Me Too.
Yes, I swear to you, this was like fucking 2 years ago.
It is. It's 2020.
Yes, this was
Oh my God.
not even 2 years ago.
I like
This
how
was
the Me Too
post-
thought was like, we're not just going to not make more American Pie movies. It's
Eugene
like,
Levy,
no,
the
gender
phone
flip them.
rings. He lets it ring.
It's the
He's like, I got
only
that Schitt's Creek
one
money now.
He hasn't been in. They thought Reunion was gonna restore it to fucking theatrical like grace, and then like 3 years later they give up and go like, let's just do the book smart version of American Pie, where now it's nerdy girls trying to lose their virginity. But I think someone weird either directed or wrote that movie.
It's Clint Eastwood.
Oh right.
Mike Elliott directed it. It does not look weird.
Pie.
Written by David H. Steinberg, who wrote the screenplay for American Pie 2. I don't think it's that guy. And Blaine Weaver.
Maybe this is completely in my head.
Might be in your head.
I don't know.
Not getting anything here. Anyway, back to vampires.
Yeah. Can we talk about Cheryl Lee for a second?
Yeah.
There is.
Bye,
Ben's
Ben.
putting on a
Ben is
jacket.
Ben's out of here.
There is Ben's leaving his own home.
Yep.
American Pie, The Naked Mile.
American Pie presents Ben Leaves.
But she is really tapping into some of the Fire Walk with Me energy here of like being like expressing the trauma that was instilled. I don't want to.
I completely agree with you.
That same sort of like jaw unhinged internal scream energy to her performance here that I think John Carpenter must have keyed into, knowing that she could.
I mean, I will read his line about her. He had seen Twin Peaks. She has a really unique quality about her. I like people who are not exactly on the nose. They're a little tweaked. Sandy King, the producer, puts it as, she looks like an angel with dirty wings. She's a mature woman. So many heroines these days are just girls. Cheryl is all woman. I like how John put it more than Sandy King. But it is that, yes, she's haunted. Like, and that's why she's so good in Twin Peaks as well. Like, she feels haunted. Like, it feels like you're like, what's going on with this person beyond like, oh, it's the prom queen.
You
like,
should
she's
tweet.
Pretty.
You should tweet that Cheryl Lee is all woman and just see how that goes.
Yeah, well, she is all woman. She's wonderful.
I'm sorry.
I love her.
The last thing I need to say about this, but I was just trying to figure out why I had a weird memory about this. The story is that they greenlight American Pie Presents. It was supposed to be called East Great Falls. And it was just like back to basics, 4 dudes trying to lose their virginity. The twist is they all like the same girl, right? Then they do American Reunion instead. They're like, put those fucking DTV movies on a shelf. And then when American Reunion underperforms, they bring it back. But now they're like, it's post Me Too. We have to rewrite and flip the genders.
That's an incredible premise for a movie, though. The idea that like a high school movie about 4 guys who all like the same girl. I actually don't know if I've seen that movie, especially if you put it in like a modern context of them trying to accommodate for each other's feelings and being somewhat gracious, but also being horny teenagers.
But now it's 4 girls who all like the same guy.
I got a script to write.
Wait a second.
Pie. A guy fucks a pie. That's a movie. That's what Spike Lee said about it.
You never forget your first slice.
You never do.
That's a great film. I saw it at the sneak preview. I literally had in my calendar American Pie 2 circled the day that it came out.
Definitely.
In August, a few years later. These were very...
he glues his hand to his dick. We all went one.
I mean, I'm a couple years younger.
The fact
the filibustering I did for a full year to get to see that thing in theaters, and I failed.
The fact that Chris Weitz is sort of like in this greater circle is as if like a god.
I've pestered him about American Pie.
We ask him all the time, and clearly it's just kind of like, I don't know.
Guys, I made it. It was like a 22-day shoot.
I really wanted to just have a film be produced.
This is what fucking Richard Brickman tells me every time I knock on his door, and I'm like, "Can we talk risky business, Mr. Brickman?" And he's just like, "Go away."
That was the funniest thing when we did. I think it was the Les Kosh episode, which was like our first time ever meeting him, right?
Possibly, yeah.
And he was like, "Man, this movie, I just can't believe like the amount of sex scenes. I wouldn't know what to do. I'd be so awkward on set with all this." And you're like, "You directed American Pie," and he was like, "Oh, right. I kind of blocked that out."
Yeah, right.
I had to direct pie fucking and shit.
Multiple takes. There's 2 kinds of pie fucking.
8 sequences.
I mean, for as retrograde as those movies seem now, I will say, speaking to our earlier point, that nothing stuck with me more from that movie than that sort of emotional core, that bittersweet feeling between Kevin and Vicky.
The first one has a little bit.
I think that first one holds up, but like surprisingly well, all considered.
The Shannon Elizabeth stuff does not hold up.
There is stuff that holds up.
Oh no, so much of that movie doesn't hold up.
But like, imagine it's all going to be that, and instead there's like 50% of it that like plays pretty well still.
Right, and then the rest of them are absolute dog shit, I assume.
Yeah.
Like, I've never seen Wedding or Reunion, but they're bad.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Chill.
Yeah, you can't even point to like certain incidents in the original American Pie that sort of pass the smell test now. It's just sometimes an overall flavor.
There's a sensitivity. It's dialogue scenes and right. The set piecey stuff that people remember is the stuff that ages less well, and the sequels become all what could end up in this? Who could put that there by accident? You know, it's like it's all reverse engineered.
Where's Jim's dick going?
Right. Who can walk in on what?
What's Jim gonna fuck next? That could have been the direction for it, but it was really more just like it isn't about the vaginas we meet. It's about the friends we make along the way.
It's the friends you make along the way.
What if you just make it pie fuckers and that's the whole thing?
That's to be the reboot.
John Carpenter's
the
Pie
reboot
Fuckers.
is American Pie presents John Carpenter's Pie Fuckers. He read the script and he went, "This is a Western. It's basic. It's stripped
Howard
down.
Hawks.
Some men roll into town. There's some pies. They need to be fucked.
I think Hawks would. It's all over this.
Someone's gonna fuck this pie." I wanted Pesci to play the lead.
Are there any other? I wanted Pesci.
I got fucked this pie.
Can we get Pesci? He's gone fishing. What a terrible excuse. I'm serious. He's making a movie called Gone Fishing. It was written by J.J. Abrams. He couldn't turn it down. Yes, go ahead. What?
No, I'm just thinking back to John Carpenter's Vampires.
Mhm.
Yeah, any more notes there?
We really did cover the bases.
Max
Once this
Shell.
movie
We should
has-
talk about the final reveal, which I like, which is that what is his title?
He's a cardinal.
He's a cardinal. Right,
Alba.
of course. He's a pile of dog shit.
He is a pile of dog shit as well, of course.
He has made a Faustian bargain, a deal with the devil, as he says,
He's
with
afraid
Alec,
of dying.
because as he's getting up there in age and death is creeping around the corner, he realizes that the epiphany is not coming, the word of God,
Sure.
the sign, the light.
Yes.
He has a total crisis of faith and decides, I'm terrified of death. What I want is to never die.
And if Valak turns into this super vampire, he can turn me into a super vampire or something like that.
Right. I don't have to worry about sundowning.
Luckily, Tim Guinea has a great idea for how to deal with that. Shoot him in the back with a shotgun.
Yeah.
The bullets explode his back.
Yep.
And blood goes everywhere.
Uh-huh.
But no, I agree with you. I like
that.
the double cross.
Yeah.
And I like that James Woods is the one with integrity, but he's also this like totally poisoned person.
I also like that it's rooted in this sort of like, there's nothing. Like the existential terror of like, I see now there's nothing. This is it. What have I committed my life to?
I also like that James Woods gets strung up on a cross and almost burned. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you like, David, and they don't do a lot of this, but I felt like this was something I was assuming you would have vibed with, is like the priest like alludes to like there's like archives of vampire hunter history. I found that to be really an interesting thing.
I love that idea. In
The
general.
Presidium.
Big books, exactly.
Yeah.
All that nonsense.
But that he's gone through and there's like this whole tradition.
Yeah.
It almost kind of seemed to me like, especially when part of the ritual for the vampires is they needed to get a hunter's blood. It's almost like it's like in his blood that he's a vampire hunter or some shit. You
Love
know?
that shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that shit too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes,
no,
ahead.
go on, because I am coming into this conversation midstream. after
That's fine.
peeing.
Chad Stahelski plays.
You're coming in
one of the-
midstream after
David,
dropping your
hey,
own
come on,
stream.
what are you doing? It's on my floor. Hey, what the hell?
Nice run.
Don't cross him. Sorry.
I know it's a tomb, but come on.
Chad Stahelski plays one of the masters at the end.
Sure
here.
does.
Oh, that's cool.
The one major beef I have with this movie, almost a deal breaker,
Right.
is that when they talk about the like concentric circles that the vampires have been hunting in, looking
Yeah.
for something, there's no shot of that. They don't do it like
They didn't
movies.
have an extra
Listen,
40 million
when,
bucks.
When they fucking
It's like
invented
circles
movies,
come cheap. They can only afford a rectangle.
you know, Edison and Eastman, I guess not inventing movie, but at the real beginning of it, got together and they were like, we have one hard and fast rule for this medium, which is that when you talk about something hunting in patterns, you have to realize slowly when you look at the pins in the map, and you pull out and you see the shape that
It's
it
the
makes
circle.
is a fucking pentagram or whatever.
Right. You just want the map.
Yeah, I want the map. I want that map,
would
baby.
be cool. Here's the effect I did like, though. That's very simple. Is them coming out of the ground,
Yeah.
all covered in dirt.
Yeah.
Oh
it's
my
cool.
God.
That
Yes.
shit is
Yeah.
cool.
Dude, that is cool.
And apparently it was like a nightmare to shoot because they had to like bury them.
Right. That's the way you do that. Is you just bury some
You just bury
motherfuckers.
some motherfuckers.
All of their genes are buried, really, when you think about it.
That's a good
shit.
point.
You're actually
If they're wearing
100%
jeans,
true.
then
Also, their DNA is buried. Those genes.
But it's part of the unromantic, animalistic approach to the character, which is like they're literally spending their daytime either in a decrepit cellar or in the earth.
fucking
Now, not
dirt.
to nitpick, but how do you bury yourself?
Mm.
Do you know what I
vampire
mean?
powers?
I guess that's
Yeah.
true. I guess you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
And that is
Question is settled.
settling that.
I feel like a lot of production meetings with Carpenter went just like that. With Carpenter being like, vampire pounders.
They have claws. They're like gophers. You know what I'm saying? Like they're digging themselves in like a little fucking gopher.
Right, but then how do you bury yourself
And then
but
you go
make
like
it
this.
look? Yeah, I don't know.
I don't fucking know how do gophers do it.
Guys, test it out at home. Tell us how it goes.
Yeah.
I do love this summary of the Siskel and Ebert review. Siskel showered Woods with praise. You've got James Woods spouting off. He jacks up this picture so that it never lags. Ebert considered that the movie may qualify as a guilty pleasure. So I'm just imagining Siskel just absolutely like firing a gun in the air. And Ebert's like, yeah, all right, it's okay.
Well, and it's like one of the last episodes that Siskel ever did.
Oh, was he sick at the time?
Yeah, because this is the Big Pig in the City year,
He sounds very
he dies beginning in
unwell,
99. One of the last episodes he ever did was their annual memo to the Academy, where they say, here are the things that shouldn't be forgotten, where he made the impassioned plea that James Woods should be considered for Best Actor. That was not a joke we were making. That's one of the final statements Gene Siskel left us with.
And it was
Big Pig in the City is the best film in 1998, and James Woods should get nominated for Best Actor.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
It's on his tombstone. It's like,
Sayonara.
here lies the James Woods Oscar hopes for 1998.
Should have been considered.
But there is a feeling that I get with some Carpenter movies where it's so close to having a little bit more meat on its bones, which seems a little antithetical to the Carpenter approach. But it's like, had this movie been, I don't know, maybe a $5 million more than it needed, or 15 minutes longer in some ways, they could have leaned a little bit more into the mythology around it. They could have had more of an arc of Woods at sort of the end of the
I agree with you. And I haven't felt that way about the other Carpenter movies we're watching, especially watching them on order. I've just gained a greater appreciation. But this is one where I'm like, could have gone a little harder, a little deeper, a little more specific. It's a very fun movie. It's entertaining. It's cool. There are interesting ideas in it.
And it's that Carpenter thing of like, yes, we're sort of like, we'd like it to go deeper, but you do sort of admire the purity of like, you know what, he told a genre story,
sure,
you know, beginning to end.
And there's more goofy fun to this, obviously, than like Village of the Damned or Memoirs.
And
a lot more energy.
Like,
a lot more energy.
There's energy.
As much as the movie feels stuck between having a mythology and really just being very pared down and straightforward, can you imagine a modern film, even if it weren't a part of a larger franchise, having this much mythology that it encapsulates in 5 minutes of Maximilian Schell being like, yeah, there were vampires, you heard about that, and now I'm one of them. I'm going to be one of them now. Like,
yeah,
it's really, here's 600 years of history that we're going to condense into like, oh, the Cologne cell was wiped out.
I mean, that's the thing. I found this movie a little underwhelming just because we've been spoiled by watching all these fucking great Carpenter movies for the last couple of months. But I did run the thought experiment about like, what if Screen Gems released this in January? I would fucking lose my goddamn mind and be like, have you seen this fucking thing?
Absolutely.
This rips. If this was just like a Lionsgate dump.
And I'd like him. I mean, he can do whatever he wants. But we're coming up on the award and I'm not excited for the award.
Me neither.
And I would like him to just actually sneakily make a movie called like, you know, Blood Dudes.
John Carpenter's Ghost. Like, just pick another
Carpenter's Blood Dudes.
Wow.
You know, and
you just came up with that?
Yeah, I did.
All right.
I literally just came
Hold
up with
on
that.
a second.
Ben's got
Ben's
like hearts in his eyes.
And it comes out in January.
Could
and
the S have could it be a dollar sign, David? Is that okay?
Sure.
All right.
Well,
I'm
do you
really
need to do
on
Blood
board.
Dude as the original and then Blood Dudes with
That's
the dollar
your
sign as the sequel?
That's
Right.
your sequel.
Right.
The Carpenter's like, I got no involvement with it.
It cost $200 million.
Yeah, but that's the exact thing. You wish they just let him make a little Blumhouse.
Just a little fun one.
A little Blumhouse and
fun
release
one.
it in the winter, and let's all just have modest expectations for it, but let the guy have some fun.
I like Halloween Kills more than most people because people really hate that
Still
movie.
haven't seen it.
Whereas
Yeah.
I am very, you know, I think it's a movie with a lot of problems.
Mhm.
But I have to imagine the Carpenter watches it. I really want to know what he thinks while he's like, you know, doing his cool scores, right?
He had a quote like 2 years ago when it was originally supposed to come out where he's like, I really like it. I think it's really gnarly. They really went for it.
For the
For Kills.
Oh, for Kill. Well, it is really gnarly. I do think he likes that.
He had a quote
Right.
to that effect where he was like, I like that this is the hardest anyone's gone.
But
with
there's
one of these movies.
there's a subplot in Halloween
But maybe
Kills.
that's him trying to find something nice.
Right,
I don't
exactly.
know. I
Maybe
don't know.
that's him being nice.
Sure.
But like, there's a subplot in Halloween. Have you seen Halloween Kills?
Nope. I haven't seen the previous Halloween.
Evil Dies Tonight.
I'm all good.
Evil Dies Tonight. Where it gets a little more highfalutin and has a bit of a sort of comment to make on
Sure.
on current society. And I just wonder if Carpenter watches that and is like,
Yeah.
Is the
You know,
moral
rolling his eyes.
you shouldn't stab people to death?
the moral. There's just a whole thing with a
Don't
mob.
ruin it because I'm going to see
Just
it.
where it
Mob
has some-
justice.
Yeah,
fucking
where
shit.
it's like,
Sure.
you know, are we the real enemies? And I'm like, Michael Myers is out there gouging people's eyes.
Sure, evil.
Like, maybe you should form a mob.
I will also say I heard that David Gordon Green shot a very different ending, and Blumhouse had to like sit him down and go like, I see what you were trying to do. It's very interesting. It doesn't work. We'll let you have control over the rest of the movie, but you have to shoot a more conventional ending.
I am very intrigued to hear. Do you know what? Do you know what the?
I know
other
nothing
ending
about
was?
it.
Okay.
I know nothing about it. I just know that was the thing where he said to him, like,
of it, the movie is a little jarring.
I know is that Blum sat him down and was like, I really respect what you were trying to do, but it doesn't work. And you need to do something that delivers traditionally. I appreciate the ambition, but you didn't execute it. And that I think whatever that ending was going to be is going to be on the eventual.
I would check that out. I would be interested to check that out. But it does feel a little bit like a movie where it's like, are you trying to make a gnarly homage to Halloween sequels that's just violence and Michael Myers, right? Or are you trying to tell me something here? Pick one. Don't try and do both.
Right. And then I think Blum was just like, just do the gory, scary ending. It's also very concerning that all the recent interviews, David Gordon Green's like, the third movie is going to touch on like COVID and the election fraud. And
look, I'm not concerned about that.
No, Michael Myers goes to the January 6th insurrection.
He's like, no, I think this one's going to be like really topical. We're going to be able to talk about things that have happened since the last one came out. And
I'm like, fine, make that movie, dude. Because like, I'm like, sure, are you going to make just another movie where Michael Myers kills people? I'd go see it. Okay. But I'm like, do you want to make some kind of wacky shit that will probably suck, but at least it'll be like, remember that one? Like, I'm kind of into it.
It is just wild. And obviously it was just like too much fucking money. But like, I think everyone would have been pretty comfortable with that being the last Laurie Strode movie, and that works as like a legacy. Even the people who like it less are like, that works as a bookend to the original
and
film.
It's such a huge hit that they're like, we're coming back, baby.
Right. And now he's just making these two more weird continuing
Halloween
old woman
H4O,
Laurie.
baby.
Well, I mean, we don't have to keep talking about this, but I mean, the weirdest thing is that all three were supposed to take place on the same night.
Right.
It's this one takes place on the same night as the last one.
Right.
But now he's like, because of COVID, we couldn't shoot the third one.
Right. They were going to.
So now it will be set 4 years later.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, that's pretty different.
Right.
What's your plan?
But then he frames it as, which is great because now I get to talk about
and then I'm
the
like,
Rona.
about COVID. And I'm like, all right.
What an opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Michael Myers, mask compliance through the roof.
Yeah, the guy wears a mask.
It's true.
I honestly don't know how he breathes.
But he breathes pretty heavily.
He also often keeps his distance until he doesn't.
Until he's right on you.
He's like 40 feet away, or he's like 2 inches away.
He likes to watch.
He likes to watch.
Vampires.
Any more vampires
$.
That's so what happens
short
in this movie. They
observation.
they hunt vampires. They have their last stand.
Okay. I like that they called the underlings goons.
Yeah.
That's a fun specific.
Yeah.
It's really good. I like that it's like a workplace, like, you know what I mean? This is a shorthand for that kind of thing.
It ends with him letting fucking Daniel Baldwin, Cheryl Lee get a 2-day head start on him.
Yeah, because
which
they're turning into vampires.
No,
but yeah,
that is all incredible. And in that, it's unbelievable, and that I do not honestly believe what I am watching. For some of it. There is a shot
wild
that is just chef's kiss in the worst way with Daniel Baldwin driving their open air Jeep while Cheryl Lee is full fangs out, like stretching, getting ready to bite him. She's like, here I go. And he's just sitting there, eyes on the road, completely oblivious, as if the actor himself did not even know.
He might not have been paying
what
too
was
much
coming.
attention. Might be a little glassy-eyed.
It's like maybe his best moment as an actor in the movie is when she finally does bite him, and he kind of plays the sense of relief of I can stop fighting against this.
Would you call that relief? I think he is clearly coming.
Well,
that's
the ultimate
his eyes cross
relief.
like he is doing a Saturday Night Live caricature of someone having an orgasm.
The little death.
It's the big death. At
Someone
that
just
point.
saw The Last Duel.
Le petit mot.
Yeah, it's. I mean, because there is a very erotic quality to the way vampirism is presented in this movie.
Yeah.
And you see that in the way that Cheryl Lee is made to act like she's orgasming. When she is going through that, and they go through the sort of like rapey sexualization of how her body is displayed on the bed. And
good, very bad.
Very bad. And then, there is when she is sucking his blood.
Right.
You know,
he's been edging for years.
Right.
He's finally letting the thing happen. Yeah.
I wandered off the blank check Reddit one day into a whole Reddit about that, and he was posting a lot. This character, Tony Montoya, about his cross-eyed edging moment where his entire body just like collapses.
It's like Aykroyd getting the ghost blowed up.
He also, before he turns towards the end, Baldwin, he takes a machine gun and just shoots it into the air and screams.
Yes, he does.
I felt that.
Ben,
You like
are you
that?
consulting notes?
Oh, but Ben,
I wrote down a couple
Ben,
things.
Poet laureate.
what does he do that for?
Well,
It's the coolest. I was like laughing at that. And then Carpenter, man, he turns that beat on its fucking head and makes it practical.
wait,
He
no.
uses the gun, which is heated up, to solder his wound.
Oh, fuck, I didn't notice that.
Cinema.
Right, right,
It's called.
right. I did like
Wow,
that.
That's awesome.
I did.
It's
like
awesome.
I was
It's
just there
awesome.
for the just emotional
It's a
moment
hat
while you
Yeah.
shoot an
On
automatic
top of a hat.
gun.
That.
Yeah. Oh,
It
I love
rules.
that.
Yeah.
Imagine if I had just another little hat
You should
under
try it.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be
Cool.
very cool.
Yeah.
I need to pee really badly, and rather than pulling an Ehrlich and going on the rug, I'm going to use this as an impetus to play the box office game.
This film opened on October 30th, 1998. A Peacocktoberween. I can't even remember. Peacocktober.
I'll say this
Halloween.
too: the Peacocktober selection. I guess by the time this episode comes out, it'll be gone.
It'll be Peacock November.
It's fucking good. They have like the best selection of horror movies of any of the streaming services
Peacock's
right now.
got stuff.
Yeah, it's
It's got
good.
some stuff. Right? That's
Yeah.
cool.
And it's the only streaming service that lets me select Dominic Toretto as my avatar.
He's also my avatar.
Well, and that's why we're friends.
Exactly.
It's also the only streaming service that has like 73 seasons of Below Deck.
That's true.
That is true.
And,
Season
and
so
Everybody
diverse.
Loves Raymond remastered.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
4K.
Also, your avatar should be the boss baby. Number one at the box
no,
office.
absolutely not. Never. Number one at the box office on this weekend was a film called Vampires.
You scared me.
Opening to $9 million. Back when October was kind of a dead time in
Yeah.
Hollywood, not now when it
I remember
so
an Entertainment
massive.
Weekly article probably right around this time, 98 or 99, about how October had the fewest $100 million grosses of any
Sure.
month.
Right.
That
Right.
at that point, it was like only 3 movies have ever opened in October and made $100 million.
No.
Why can Hollywood not make this month work?
Now they make it work, baby.
Now they
Did
fucking make it work.
Vampires simultaneously open on Screen Gems Plus as well?
Yeah, well, right. That did cut into its profits. Yes. Number 2 at the box office is a film that I truly love. Big fan of this film at the time. I've watched it recently,
Mhm.
and it had been number 1 the last weekend. It's not maybe as great as I remember it when I was a teenager,
Hour?
but it's good. No, not Rush Hour. That's a film you love, and that is number 6 at the box office.
Wow.
It is a
How the mighty have fallen.
very high concept comedy, dramedy,
Okay.
sort of satire, social commentary.
It's not
It's
Pleasantville.
not the Truman Show.
It
Which-
is.
Which? The Truman? What?
Pleasantville.
Oh, well, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Wait, so you don't like it as much now? Is that what you said?
I watched it recently
Okay.
in COVID. It was
Yeah.
one of those movies my wife had never seen, and I was
Yeah.
like, I love, and I threw it on, and I was like, this is still good, and I
Yeah.
think the technical thing is
Incredible.
still so
Yeah.
incredible. But I was like, it's a little obvious. I think I
Sure.
was
The
a little-
It's a
transition-
mind blower when you're a fucking tween.
Yeah.
It's really the third act. Like the transition into the hokiness of the whole town turning into color and becoming this broad metaphor for race relations is
But
pretty
the
clumsy,
JT
but
Walsh
the first
scene
half
is so
rules.
fucking good.
Joan
Really
turns
Allen
in
is
color.
incredible in it.
Yeah, Joan Allen should
Joan
win
Allen
the
and
Oscar
William
for
H.
that.
A
Macy are
role
both incredible.
Tobey Maguire was born for.
Yes.
Toby and Reese are great.
Great use of the
Jeffy Boy.
Jeffy
Daniels?
Boy is great.
The
Great.
best
Paul Walker's great.
Paul Walker performance ever, I would say.
He's so funny.
He's really good.
man.
Hold on, I'm consulting the record books here, and I see She's All That listed prominently.
I would say he's even better in Pleasantville. It's
yeah,
a very
but she was a
skillful
bet,
comedic
Griffin.
performance. She was a
She
bet.
was a fucking bet.
She was a
a
bet.
fucking bet.
I'd be curious to rewatch it. I probably haven't seen it in like 5 years.
Yeah,
but-
we watch it.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's also very long. I
Yeah.
sort of forgot about that too. I'm like, I watch this on video all the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, number
Joan
3.
Allen would have been my supporting actress. When
She's certainly on my
she
list
was
that year.
Mega
I can
snub.
probably check the 5. Number 3 is another film I saw in theaters and loved and rewatched recently and was like, this is even better than I remember.
Whoa.
It's By Your Namesake.
Griffin Dunn.
Oh, it's your fucking favorite goddamn.
It's not
movie.
my favorite. It's not Addicted to Love, which I do. love.
Oh, that's your favorite. It's Practical Magic.
It's Practical Magic, which it's so good.
Mm.
So we got Witches and Vampires at the top of the box office.
Yes, we
Spooky
do. Practical Magic, Sandy and Nick,
Mhm.
Aiden Quinn, Goran Visnich.
Sure.
Oh, a VR fame.
Yeah, absolutely.
Arrgh.
Great movie, holds up.
He has Alec Baldwin worthy
Dr.
hair. He could be a
Channing,
Baldwin.
Diana
Oh,
Reese.
He's a hirsute man.
man.
He is hard hair.
But that
yes.
that head of hair is beautiful.
Number 4 at the box office, it's a cartoon starring someone unusual.
It's a cartoon. Unusual for them to be starring in a cartoon.
Correct.
The actor.
Yes. You know what it is.
I do. It is the movie Ants.
Well written.
It is well written by our dear friend Chris.
Ants with a dollar sign.
Ants with a dollar sign.
Ants with
Ants
a
with a
Z
Z.
that's sort of going like...
Dreams with a Z.
And
That's
he's like,
another, white
Pleasantville Magic, Ants. These are just movies I was there opening weekend.
Oh,
being
absolutely.
Brilliant.
Wait, have you asked White's about, he did Ants with a Z, and then in American Dreams, it's all about dreams with a Z.
But did he write American Dreams?
American Dreams is Paul. and not
yeah,
Chris.
but he's still got some intel.
That's
They are
after
brothers
split
after
up.
all. Please.
Sure.
Dreams with a Z.
It is fascinating though that like Ants was viewed as this big fucking hit, and it's like, oh, it tops out at 80. Like nothing could get over this 100 hump in October.
Joan Allen is also my winner for Pleasantville that year. Laura Linney, Truman Show, Kate Beckinsale did Last Days of Disco, Lisa Kudrow, Opposite of Sex, Rosario Dawson, He Got Game. Those are my
it's a good
nominees
fight.
that
It's
year.
a good fight, but Joan Allen's kind of undeniable in that movie.
Number 5 at the box office is a sequel in a horror franchise, but it's got a new twist on
Is it a little sideways?
Yeah,
Is it,
exactly.
do they go to space?
No.
Oh.
It's not Jason X.
Right,
great.
that's later. But it has a little bit of a
Sort of comical and kind of self-aware.
It's a
Film you
movie
love.
I love. That is, of course, called The Bride of Chucky.
It's Bride of Chucky.
Bells are ringing.
That's number 5. You've also got Rush Hour. You've got Soldier with a very grumpy Kurt Russell.
Yeah, that's
Who-
the moment where they're like, they paid him $15 million for
For
this,
this?
and he seems like he hates it.
Not a bad
But
movie.
he also famously has like 11 lines of dialogue in that movie.
Right.
He
Which
doesn't
is,
talk much.
and they broke down how much he got paid by word, and it was quite a lot.
Beloved,
Movie
which
cover?
we've covered on this podcast.
Yeah.
Apt Pupil. Uh-oh.
Oh.
And What Dreams
May
Come.
Come.
One of the most depressing movies ever made.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but great Werner Herzog cameo.
Did that director ever do anything ever again? Like that's
Is that because he's the director, like a visual effects guy or something?
no, I feel like he was some European.
It's Vincent Ward,
is it
famous
really?
New Zealand film director. So
Vincent
he did
Ward
do-
directed that?
He did. What Dreams?
Because I was gonna
May
say that
Come?
feels like a real blank check movie, but we're
Mhm.
never gonna cover it.
No.
I mean, that was Robin Williams post Good Will Hunting. I'm going to
And-
be a serious actor for a
And
minute.
Cuba's post Jerry Maguire. It's like big post Oscar movie for both of them. and-
Afterlife, there is more.
It
What
wins the
Dreams
visual
May
effects
Come.
Oscar.
I believe
Afterlife
it did.
also
didn't it?
came out
Right.
in 1998.
A
Probably
very
the best film in
a
1998.
much
movie.
better film.
Great
Yeah.
movie.
I just think that's one of those movies that it was like derided. Everyone fucking hated it. It was a big flop, and they were like, "Yeah, but we got to give it the Oscar for visual effects, right?"
I mean, the whole thing looked like a Monet painting,
Yes.
at least in like 1998.
Yeah.
CGI was capable of. Also, there's a Werner Herzog cameo where he plays like a half buried like flower or something.
Ben, that's another idea for you. Buried Herzog.
Yeah.
Herzog.
Oh, don't bury him though. We need him.
Well, we do
Well,
need
hello,
to
Robin.
Just
Just
keep the head
out.
above.
or give him a straw.
Give him a little straw.
Yeah,
Okay, well, that's the box office game.
we did it.
David's finishing a piece.
Any final thoughts on the movie Vampires with a Z?
I would love to see.
Fuck's so hard.
Yeah, it does. I would love to see more filmmakers just put a possessive spin on the concept of vampires. Why not?
John Carpenter's got him.
Okay,
Try and take him.
couple of few things I wanted to say.
A couple of
Please.
few things.
A couple of
few
things.
things that I have left here in my notes. There is a moment where James
What?
says, "God damn," 3 or 4 times, basically like kind of back to back, where it's like almost incredible. And I kept trying to like find the scene after
Yeah.
watching it later, and I was not able to find it. But it's something where like he's just like, someone's like, "Well, we can't do that." God damn. And then they say something back to him, and he's like, "God damn." It's just over and over and over again.
Mhm.
And he's so good at it.
Rule of 3.
It's
Yeah.
kind of amazing how many times James Woods can say goddamn in a row and it's still interesting and entertaining,
A lifetime full of experience.
right?
Yeah.
That, and then I just wanted to say at the end of the movie when they're designing the system with the elevator and how they're going to drag the vampires out, that was like such a dad moment. And I was like, I have no fucking idea what a winch is. I don't know what they're fucking talking about.
It does have
It's
big
so
like
dad.
the
like,
boys getting together on a Saturday and deciding to like do a project energy.
right. Yeah. They're like laying out this whole thing. And I'm just like, this is really weird.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a weird movie.
God damn. It's good.
You loved it.
I do love it. It's total trash, but it's good trash.
But it's
like you say,
right-
it's high-end trash.
Yeah.
You would praise it now.
It's like a car hanging over the edge of a cliff and seesawing back and forth, right between Carpenter being in control of his craft and the trash that follows.
Yes.
It is kind of an inflection point
But
for
she's
that.
only got 2 movies left after this. It's wild.
I wonder. I mean, I just can't imagine the award's going to give me much. But Ghosts of Mars.
I'm
That's some
excited.
fun.
Ghost of Mars is a movie I've only seen parts of on cable. I've
Same.
never actually watched it in full, and I'm excited to watch it because it feels like that's my kind of silliness.
Hey, David, what if Mars had ghosts?
You got my money. You have my attention.
Yeah.
What if Mars had ghosts is good? I'm into that.
Good tagline.
Good. What's the tagline?
What if Mars had
What's
ghosts?
the
Yeah.
actual tagline? All right, but Griff needs to pee.
Yeah.
I don't need.
I need
look
to
up the Ghosts of
pee.
Mars.
Ehrlich, thank you for being here.
My pleasure as always.
A nice in-person record.
Yeah, in the tomb. I haven't told you guys this yet, but I'm not going to be here on the next miniseries. But the miniseries after that, I'm slotting myself in.
No. Sorry.
Denied.
But you'll be on one soon. Don't worry.
Oh, brutal. There's one movie.
We'll talk to you off mic.
There's one
there
movie
were
there
the things got
that I want.
the plans got warped a little bit.
Things have been messed around.
That's the issue.
Yes,
That's
That's
one of
all right.
the
It's a less
issues.
personal dig. I can
it's
take
not
that.
one
a
of the
personal
issues.
dig. It's not
well,
personal.
always my pleasure to be here
Yeah.
for whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And
You'll be back.
If I don't promote
Fighting the war room.
whatever.
Fighting in the War Room with Katie Rich, David Ehrlich, Matt Patches,
yeah,
Dave Gonzalez.
There's going to be some real fighting in the war room if you fail to plug it.
There often is.
Yeah.
And you can find me at the playground with Asa,
Damn right.
chilling. He's the one screaming about stuff. And
Keys.
petting Daddy's furry arms and yelling about keys.
Scratchy arms. And thank you all for listening. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Thank you to Marie Barty for our social media, AJ McKeon and Alex Barron for our editing, Lane Montgomery and the Great American Novel for our theme song. You can listen to their new album, Extremely Loud, Incredibly Online, wherever albums are found. Joe Bone and Pat Reynolds for our artwork, JJ Birch and Nick Lariano for our research. Every time I'm just so worried I'm going to fuck it up. That run of what's now become 18 names.
Yeah. You're gonna get there though.
I'm getting there. I'm getting less scared every week.
Right.
Next week, tune in for Ghosts of Mars.
Right.
Who you
John
got for
Carpenter's Ghosts of Mars.
You'll see.
that?
You'll see. Yeah, you'll see. And
You got the ghost?
You can go to patreon.com/blank check where Santa Claus is coming to town.
We actually got Mars.
Oh shit! Rarely gives podcast appearances,
Right,
but
right.
that's a big get.
Santa Claus is coming to town. We're doing Tim Allen's Santa Claus trilogy on Patreon.
We sure are.
It's premium. We couldn't do that on main feed.
Now wait, are we?
The costs are
Wait,
too high.
You guys have definitely already done, if not an entire episode, then at least an episode-long sidebar about
Yes.
the Santa Claus 2.
Because much like my watching all 4 American Pies while fighting an exploding gallbladder night, when I was very depressed on Christmas 2020, alone in the pandemic, I watched all 3 Santa Claus movies in a row, waiting for Soul to go up on Disney Plus, and then could not stop talking about how weird they are.
Yeah. Elizabeth Mitchell, she was my supporting actress pick that year.
She's good in that movie. She is weird.
I'm excited to see Elizabeth.
Good.
I love
in
Elizabeth Mitchell.
that movie. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. That's what the fuck is going on. Go to blanketsarrows.com for some real nerdy shit. And as always, James Woods has never done cocaine in his life.